Along for the ride, Spence Checketts behind the mic. Porter Larson back behind the glass after pulling double duty today. Porter and James holding it down as Sean is on the road with the PFL. So Porter and James doing a good job midday today on the radio station. Appreciate their work. So Porter is producing the show. He can take a few deep breaths after 3 hours on air. And we are jam-packed and busy on a Thursday edition of the program. Could be the final day of the NBA season. Could be the final day of the season in pro basketball as the Oklahoma City Thunder will look to complete what has really been a historic season all year long. They're going to try to knock off the Pacers tonight as the series has returned to the Brick House in Indianapolis, Indiana, Gainesbridge Fieldhouse. Oklahoma City's a healthy favorite to win tonight, and all eyes on the status of Tyrese Halliburton. As of now, we are about 50 minutes away from Indiana's walkthrough prior to tip tonight, and sources indicate, not mine, others, not wildly sourced in Indianapolis, that they will decide, after the workout tonight, whether or not Tyrese is going to go. So we'll let you know. It's about 50 minutes away from right now. Of course, that decision will affect the line, and of course, it will affect the flow of the basketball game. Tyrese really makes them go in a lot of ways. We'll talk about it on the show today. They're 8-0 in the postseason when he scores 20-plus points. They're actually 9-0 in the postseason when he has 11-plus assists. They're 6-7 when he goes beneath 20 points. So, of course, they badly need him to go. But we'll get into it on the show. We are 6 days away from the NBA draft, where the Utah Jazz, as of now, have the number 5 and the number 21 pick in the first round, a couple of second-rounders to boot. So we'll see if the Jazz stand pat, if they try to move up, or if they make a move prior to NBA draft night. Want to remind you that we will have excellent coverage of the NBA draft. Coverage you won't find anywhere else, certainly in this market, but, low bar. Gordy Chase, Richard Smith, live in studio. I'll be anchoring our coverage for the both round 1 and round 2 coming up next week. And then the Utah Mammoth, I almost said hockey club, we'll get there. We'll draft 4th overall in the NHL draft the day after the NBA draft concludes. So the latest on some of these prospects, something weird's going on with Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey canceled his workout today in Philadelphia. And, he's taking a lot of heat. Let me just say this. These decisions are never made by these young prospects. And Ace is very young. He's 18. He's still very much a kid. So it's not an Ace Bailey problem. It could be who is representing him. It could be a problem with his reps or his agent or what have you. Rumors are that his agent, Ace, is the only client that this agent has. I don't know. Never heard of the agent. Really what this usually means is the young man has a promise from a team, but as Porter pointed out during crosstalk, Philly is drafting 3. And it would be a wild upset if he had a promise in the top 2. Certainly not 1. There's no intrigue this year. That's Cooper Flagg. And most people believe Dylan Harper's off the board at 2. So there's something up here, and I'm not sure what it is. Now, if he's there at 5, what do the Jazz do? Because, and we'll get into this to help you guys kind of understand the landscape of NBA prospects prior to the draft and help Jazz fans get familiar with some of these young men. About 5-6 months ago, there was a legitimate debate about Ace as one of the top 2 picks, let alone one of the top 3. Now, Dylan Harper seems to have separated himself. He's the only U.S.-based prospect yet to visit any clubs. He's declined multiple invitations from multiple teams. People still believe he's probably going to be drafted 3 to 8. Is he a player the Jazz would look at, even though he's not going to show up? I don't know. We'll have to see. So we'll talk some NBA draft on the show. NFL offseason news, not a lot right now as OTAs and mini camps are kind of wrapping up, but we will talk some NFL today on the program with a really good guest, one of our favorites to talk NFL. Offseason college football quiet right now, although if you're a BYU fan, you need to know the name Ryder Lyons. He is the top-rated quarterback in the 2026 incoming recruiting class, and he is going to make his decision between Oregon and Brigham Young, not the man in the school, on June the 24th. And, look, I'm not going to tell you I've been grinding tape on Ryder Lyons, but the more you read about him, the more that you understand he's very highly thought of. So it could be a big day for BYU, grabbing the top draft pick, the top prospect in the 2026 class. Utah football has announced their home promotions, if you're into such things. We'll tell you what those are for Utah football. We have a little Gold Cup action as the U.S. men's national team will be in action tonight against Saudi Arabia in group play. Diego Luna, our own Diego Luna from RSL, has been, in my estimation, through one match, the best player on this team. So if you're looking for something to watch tonight and you're not necessarily a basketball fan, there's a little soccer on your television a little bit later. We know the details on the sale of the LA Lakers. We'll get into some of that stuff today. And I want to talk about, throughout the course of the show with a couple of guests, I don't really know Qualtrics' finances. I don't know Ryan's finances at all. Now, when it was announced that he was taking over the Jazz, a lot of people talked about, I think, a number of about $24, $25 billion. And I certainly would never crack a microphone and tell you that's not a lot of money. But the money that's now coming into professional basketball, we're talking about groups and individuals that are like 10 times wealthier than that number, which is astronomical. And the business of basketball worldwide is booming. NBA Africa, of course, all the money they make in China. Ask Daryl Morey about how sensitive that topic is. So the finances of the NBA are changing. The business of basketball are changing. Behemoths are taking over basketball teams. And the new owner of the Lakers is the owner of the Dodgers, and their payroll is about $130 million more than any other team in pro base. This dude is, like, disgustingly loaded. And the Lakers will now be able to operate like a legitimate business because they really have kind of been a sneaky mom and pop shop for a long time. Dr. Buss was not a rich man. He leveraged everything he had to buy the Lakers in 1979. And you fast forward, he paid $67 million for the Lakers in 79, and the valuation now is $10 billion. The business of basketball is very good. So a lot to do on the program. Really good guest list. Three of my favorite guests will stop by today. We'll start off with some football, some NFL football with Ben Solak from ESPN. I always enjoy chatting football with Ben. He's a consistent friend of the show. Has been before he became like uber famous. I feel like we kind of made Ben, quite frankly. I would never say that to him, even though I have a couple of different times. So we'll bring in Ben Solak on the program today to talk a little football. Move over to Chris Kamrani live in studio. Friday staple most of the time, but CK will stop by today, and we'll talk about a bunch of different things with Chris, some college football, some Utah football, maybe a little RSL, U.S. men's national team. And then good day to have Dave McMenamin stop by live from Indianapolis to preview tonight's game and to talk about the sale of the LA Lakers and a little business of basketball conversation. The world of professional golf is focused on the Travelers Championship, where Austin Eckroat shot a 62, 8 under par. Wyndham Clark, Rory McIlroy, Keegan Bradley, all at 5 under. Scotty Scheffler, 5 under through 11. These guys are going low today after the challenge of the U.S. Open. I would imagine they're breathing very, very easy. So Ben Solak, Chris Kamrani, Dave McMenamin, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, happy Thursday afternoon to you. You're almost to the weekend. Hang on. You're almost there. And that guy pulling double duty today, 3 hours in the midday hosting a show, now producing Afternoon Drive. Hello, Porter. Happy Thursday. How are you, young man?
Happy Thursday to you, Spence. Doing well. Already, as you mentioned, well into the radio day. So ready to finish it off.
There you go. There you go. So a lot to get to on the program. Ben Solak will be our first guest to talk some NFL football. But before we catch up with Ben, on a Thursday afternoon, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Prize Picks, our good friends at Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. There's only one series left in the playoffs, and honestly, there might only be one game left in the playoffs. So now is your last chance to put your final takes to the test on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700. And when you play that first $5 lineup, they're going to hook you up with $50. You do not even have to win the lineup to get to $50. It is on the house. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700. And at checkout, they'll hook you up with $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks run your game all season long. I'm taking more on Jalen Williams, 22.5 points. I'm going to take less on Tyrese Halliburton, 13.5 points. There's a chance he won't even play. I'm taking more on Pascal Siakam, 21.5 points. And I will take more on Aaron Nesmith, 11 points as well. You know what? Give me TJ McConnell more than 5.5 points. That feels like easy money. So download that Prize Picks app today. Those are my picks for the game tonight. Speaking of the game tonight, this could be the final matchup of the NBA season as the Oklahoma City Thunder will look to close out the Indiana Pacers tonight at Gainsbridge Fieldhouse. We are your home, of course, of the NBA Finals in the market. It is a 6:30 tip. After we say goodnight at 6 o'clock, we will send you to live coverage of this matchup tonight, and it could be the final game of the NBA season. So, of course, all the eyes are on the status of Tyrese Halliburton, the head of the snake of the Pacers, the star point guard of the Pacers, who had a really, really rough Game 5 and just didn't look right. Indiana's going to hold a walkthrough and workout in about 45 minutes from right now. They will make a determination after that, according to ESPN and others. I think, it's an interesting dynamic to consider. They probably will just list him game time, and then we'll see if he's actually out there to play. I mean, I don't know if this is gamesmanship from Rick Carlisle. Rick is known for his gamesmanship. You can ask Tom Thibodeau about that. So this could be a bit of a smokescreen. I honestly have no clue. What does Indiana do if he cannot go? But I always find this dynamic interesting because Tyrese talked about this himself after Game 5 when he was asked. So in Game 5, Tyrese Halliburton had 5 drives to the basket. 5 drives to the basket for a guy that likes to get to the 10. That's the lowest amount of drives he's had all year long. Regular season, postseason combined. He didn't look right. And, I always get a kick out of media members that play doctor in these situations, talking about what could happen if he plays. But when it comes to this calf strain, we do have several examples of potential collateral damage if you push it and you go. You remember Kevin Durant going down for the Golden State Warriors when the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship. That was as a result of a calf strain that they pushed in the wrong direction. And, of course, that adversely affected Durant, quite frankly, for a couple years. He missed an entire season of basketball, wasn't really himself when he initially came back. So there's that risk, and you do need to mitigate that if you're an organization. And if you also remember during that series. So it's very rare after an NBA Finals game to hear from anyone other than players and coaches. It almost never happens. And I'm watching the game. Durant goes down, and the Raptors win. And the first person from the Golden State Warriors to address the media was Bob Myers, their general manager. It wasn't Steve Kerr. It wasn't Steph. Of course, it wasn't KD. He had to go to the hospital. It wasn't Draymond. It wasn't Clay. It was Bob Myers because he had to get out in front of the story that they potentially could be held liable here for their malfeasance, allowing Kevin Durant to play when he was clearly compromised. You have to stop the narrative that you do not have a great health and conditioning staff, that your training staff might have made the wrong call. So Bob Myers clearly stepping in front of a microphone to try to get in front of that really, really was somewhat interesting to me. And so if you're Indiana, you've got to be careful here. But the other side of this, as Tyrese said himself after Game 5, this is a lifelong dream for hoopers, for basketball players. This is a lifelong dream. Anyone who's ever played basketball with any premonition of being good at it, you dreamed of hitting a game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. You're out in your backyard. You count down 3, 2, 1. You shoot the shot. You make it. Okay, we beat the Bulls. That was my thing because the Bulls always beat the Knicks. And you dream about the opportunity that Tyrese has right now. And if we're honest, the highway of NBA basketball, pro basketball, is littered with bodies of players that made it to one NBA Finals and never made it back. So if you're Tyrese Halliburton, you badly want to play tonight. But on the flip side, conversely, if you're compromised, you could cost your team a chance at forcing a Game 7. Now, do I think Indiana can go to Oklahoma City and win a Game 7? No. But so many crazy things happen when it's simply do or die. It's what makes March Madness so awesome. And when it's a one-off, what if Shea rolls an ankle in the first quarter? What if, I don't know, Benedict Mathurin just goes nuts and goes for a half 100 or something? We've seen it. What if the Thunder just freeze up because they're a young team that's never had this opportunity before? If you can force a Game 7, everything is on the table. That's why Game 7s are awesome. So if you're Tyrese Halliburton, you have to weigh that. Is it smarter to sit if you're compromised and hope that the Bill Simmons, Patrick Ewing theory actually comes to fruition? And that's simply this. When your star player goes down, the sum of the parts are able to step up and maybe play better basketball than they ever have before to make sure that they're keeping up despite losing their best player. And we do see it happen quite often. There are potentially only 2 games left for the Pacers to lift a championship that nobody thought they had a shot of even sniffing. So if you're Tyrese, you have to weigh that out. And if it really is up to the training staff after he does this walkthrough coming up in about 40 minutes, my guess is he does not go. If he has any say, my guess is he tries, but here's the problem with that. If Tyrese Halliburton is 50, 60%, and he steps out on the floor and tries to give it a go, you know what Mark Dadnolt's going to do? Put him in every single action possible on defense, pick and roll. They will milk the clock until there's 5 seconds left to force switches to get Tyrese on the ball to make sure he's moving as much as possible. And then, of course, if you do that, what happens on the other end of the floor? Offensively, he's simply not going to be the same because he's so gassed. This is a very interesting dynamic. Not sure how it's going to play out, but it will be really interesting. Again, in about 35 minutes from right now, Indiana has their walkthrough prior to the game tonight. We will know then, according to sources, whether or not Tyrese is going to go. Let me rephrase that. They will make the determination during the walkthrough if he's going to play. My guess is we won't know until tip whether or not he's going. The line has not moved, okay? So it's still 5.5 for whatever that says. Vegas believes Oklahoma City is a 5.5-point favorite. Tyrese's status doesn't seem to have affected that one way or the other. But we'll have to see how it goes. We have some good NBA guests, one live in Indianapolis, and Dave McMiniman. But coming up on the other side to start things off on this hot Thursday afternoon here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, some off-season NFL conversation with Ben Solak from ESPN. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. Could be the final game of the NBA season tonight. Could be saying goodbye to pro basketball coming up in about 4 hours from right now. Tip-off is 6:30 Mountain Time at Gainsbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're home of the NBA Finals, so when we say goodnight at 6 o'clock, we'll send you live to ESPN's coverage of the game tonight. We've got Chris Camerani in studio. We have Dave McMiniman live on site today. The LA Lakers were sold. We'll get to that. But our first guest, I always enjoy talking football with the great Ben Solak from ESPN. Ben, happy Thursday, man. How you doing?
Well, Spence, how you been?
I'm good, buddy. So what's got your attention right now? This really is a little bit of a down period. Of course, football is always topical for people, but what's got the Ben Solak antennas up right now?
What are you talking about? The Ravens are still in minicamp. It's like day 6 or something. What a thrill. Yeah. The biggest thing that I'm watching for at this stage is always contract extensions, debates, holdouts, that sort of a thing. Bengals and Trey Hendrickson is something that's been covered now for over a year since he's been requesting a trade and requesting an extension. I'm very curious to see how that continues, especially with seemingly a lot of the locker room behind Trey and really the players kind of understanding why he's holding out like this. I think this is going to be a long one. I think it's going to go through training camp. And I think it's more likely than not to end in a trade. It's like a 60-40 thing. I think they're both likely, but I would expect a trade in that one. And then the other one that's a big deal is Washington wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who I very much expect to be back in a Commander's uniform this year. I think that will end in an extension. But Terry's asking for a lot of money, and rightfully so. And the Commanders are kind of, painting into a corner here with his demands. They do not have a strong wide receiver room behind McLaurin. Obviously, they added Deebo Samuel this year, but it's still a thin group. And they're trying to compete, right? It's Jaden Daniels, his rookie contract time. Like, let's go. We were just in the NFC Championship game. They can't waste time with screwing around with McLaurin not at camp and potentially missing time or what have you. And so the main thing that I'm watching whenever we get to this right June, July window is usually franchise tag stuff. But the only guy on the tag this year was Trey Smith, and then his contract extension stuff.
All right. Good stuff. Let's start with low-hanging fruit. Good riddance, Aaron Rodgers, as a Jets fan. He's the quarterback for the Steelers now. Of course, everybody was waiting for the decision. It came down in very classic Aaron Rodgers fashion. How's this going to look? What do you think it's going to look like in Pittsburgh?
Fine, okay, acceptable. It's hard to get thrilled about this. I think even if you got some version of Aaron Rodgers that was an MVP guy 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, which I just don't think you can get given how old he is now, coming off of the injury and what have you, we're still talking about a team whose best weapon is DK Metcalf, which is DK's a good receiver in the NFL, but as far as wide receiver ones go, he's more on the low end of that spectrum. Their second, third options are Pat Freiermuth, who again have like a league average tight end, Calvin Austin, Robert Woods at receiver. They got a third-round rookie running back and Caleb Johnson there to split time with Jalen Warren now that Najee Harris is out of the building. You have Arthur Smith at a play caller. It's guys who've been around. It's guys who can be handy. Again, it's not a bad group by any stretch, but it's just not a great supporting cast, and that's if you get good Rodgers. There's also a lot of worlds where you get bad Rodgers. It's the world that the Jets have been living through last season, I should say. In terms of some of the decision-making and kind of just throwing up a bunch of go balls really early. He can't extend plays anymore. He gets frustrated with his receivers, with his play callers. There's a lot that can go wrong in Pittsburgh. And then even if you hit right and you nailed the Metcalf trade and Rodgers is good for a year and what have you, it's still, to me, a pretty low-ceiling offense. So they're hoping, I guess, for that, 16th best offense and then a top 10 defense, and that brings them to the playoffs again. But it's hard for me to see them getting any further than that.
We'll stick with low-hanging fruit, and I will ask you about Justin Fields and Aaron Glenn and my New York Jets, even though, as I've told you over the years, no part of me believes in their ability to do anything right, and I'm still in that space. What's this going to look like, Ben, both now and what's the plan? What's the plan for this team moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that the Justin Fields tire kick is the correct way to go about things. This is going to be a long-term rebuild. There's no doubt about that. Aaron Glenn was in Detroit, which is a team that took things very slow in their rebuild. General manager Darren Moogie was in Denver, which is a team that tried to fast-track a reload, right? All right, Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson, humongous trade, big extension, go! And it didn't work, right? You kind of experienced how when you put the cart before the horse, you end up crashing and burning, and you can really throw a wrench in your team's future cap space. So I expect the build here to go quite slow. Accordingly, you bring in a player like Fields on a C-tier contract, right? It feels like a big contract, about $20 million per year. You look at NFL quarterback contracts. I mean, Daniel Jones got $14 million for one season, right? This is just kind of the maybe he can be a spot starter for us deal. It's totally fine. So you bring in Fields, you pair him with Garrett Wilson, who's been he's going to be the best receiver that Fields has played with at the NFL level. And you give Tanner Engström, the new OC, there a year or two, figure out what he can do with the Russian quarterback. Justin Fields is not a hard quarterback to figure out. You have to involve him in the design running game. You have to play option football. You have to let him run downhill. But most of his coordinators have historically not wanted to do this with him, right? Arthur Smith was running quick game stuff, did not involve him too much in the option game there in Pittsburgh. Before that, you go to Denver where it was Shane Waldron and it was Matt Nagy, and they just were not heavy movers of the guy, right? They did not want to run the option offense. And so I think that Aaron Glenn's experience in Detroit and his Lions defenses tended to get shredded by Fields on the ground. He was so good against Detroit's man coverage specifically. I think he knows the value of having that 11-on-11 quarterback, that true dual threat option quarterback. I think you're going to see Fields carry the ball at some of the league highest levels this year for quarterbacks, and they're going to have some splashy offensive performances accordingly. It's ironing out the consistency in the drop back game and not taking them many sacks. That's what limits Justin Fields. So you give him a year to kind of see if he can earn an extension from you, if he can be a guy long term. It's not dissimilar to what they did with Jared Goff in Detroit. They brought him in and said, you were good in the past. We're going to try to see if you can do something here. We're going to let you hold the job, but if you hold it for a year, hold it for another year, hold it for a year, it's yours. If you can take control of it. And that's exactly what Goff did. I think that's what they're doing with Fields in New York.
I'll take advantage of having you on today to get a couple of thoughts on local storylines. And it was a quiet draft for our local college teams, juxtaposed to what it typically is with Utah and Brigham Young. But Jackson Dart played his high school ball about 20 minutes from where we're broadcasting today. He lands with the Giants, who, of course, also have signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Do you think they'll be able to keep him on the bench all year, or do you think they've seen enough where maybe he gets a look as a rookie?
I'd be stunned if they could keep him on the bench all year, simply because Brian Dable, the head coach there, Joe Shane, the general manager there, both guys who've been around for a few years. The seat's starting to get a little hot. The objective for both those individuals is to get to the 2026 offseason and be able to turn to the Mara family and claim, this is why you got to keep me for another year, right? You got to hold on to the job here, see if you can try to rebuild it again. It's hard to get there with excitement for Russell Wilson. It's hard to get there with excitement for Jameis Winston. But if you can get a good back half of the season for Jackson Dart, we're building on something. We went 4-4 down the stretch. We're figuring it out. Then you have the ability to kind of hold on to that job for another year, get another crack in an offseason, a draft, and build from there. So I very much expect Jackson Dart to start at some point. I would not be surprised if you kind of see the sacrificial veteran starter quarterback until we get to kind of an easier part of the schedule, and then we play the rookie. If you look at the Giants starting the season, they have the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Saints, the Eagles, the Broncos, the Eagles. That's their first 8 weeks. That's brutal, man. I think that is fair. There's a lot of playoff teams in the first half of the schedule. So I think they're going to start Russ, be training Jackson up, and then be looking for that opportunity to kind of get him a soft onboard, a few easier starts somewhere midseason. That'd be my expectation.
It's probably okay to say that the Niners had no choice to pay Brock Purdy what they did, but it's also probably fair to say, wow, that's a lot for Brock Purdy. Since you and I last spoke, the contract came down 5 years, $265. Obviously, San Fran had to make some really difficult decisions. So your thoughts on the Purdy contract and what it means for the Niners?
Yeah, you say exactly right. It's cost of doing business, right? Quarterback contracts and quarterback rankings feel like they should be something that's very complex. It's actually that's very simple. It's like, okay, can we go to the Super Bowl with this guy? Like, is he above a bar such that we can make a Super Bowl run with him? Yes, then he's going to get paid an insane amount of money, right? Now, if he were Lamar Jackson, not Brock Purdy, maybe he's making $63 million a year instead of $53 million a year, but he's going to be above that kind of Mendoza line, right? It used to be the Derek Carr line. Derek Carr's not in the league anymore, but that line, the Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence line of this guy's just good enough. Like, if you're better than these players, then yeah, you're just going to get mega contracts, and if you're worse than these players, you're probably not. It becomes oddly black and white for such an important position, such a complex position. You either are a dude capable of taking a team there, or you aren't. And the Niners obviously have proof of concept. They have been to that game with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Now, if they had to come in at $60 million per year, I would maybe be here and saying, man, I don't know. That feels like too much. How did he get above Justin Herbert? How did he get above these other guys? I thought they got him at a pretty decent price tag for where the rest of the quarterbacks are coming in. They got him around the Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa number. That feels correct to me in terms of where he ranks among those top 12, top 15 quarterbacks. But there's no doubt that the margins get a lot thinner now for Kyle Shanahan and for John Lynch. And Kyle Shanahan's been making his money. Kyle Shanahan's been providing value on his contract as the head coach of the 49ers. There's no doubt he's one of the best schemers in the league. Lynch has been doing his part. They're very successful drafting these round 3 guys, round 4 guys that fill the defense with all these rookies. Lynch and Shanahan have been doing the jobs. Now they have a quarterback in Brock who, financially speaking, is saying this is the guy for us. So the Niners are selling you a bill that we have the general manager to make this run, the head coach to make this run, and the quarterback to make this run. We'll see. It was a big reload year for them. I don't think 2025 is necessarily the year they're going to get back to the big game. But if they get some good play out of these young players, rebuild the offense a little bit, 2026, expect the Niners to be back at full force.
Another local story of a player that you and I have spoke about over the years, and I never really understood the Jets being enamored enough with Zach Wilson to draft him when they did. And I also understand BYU fans that are blind and blue, saying he landed in the wrong organization. There's merit there for sure. He is getting a second chance, though. What do you think it looks like? And will he be the backup, by the way, the first choice backup to Tua in Miami?
Yeah, I think he will be the backup to Tua in Miami. And I also think that because he'll be the backup to Tua in Miami, we'll probably see him play at some point, right? That's just kind of what Tua's health situation usually ends up being. It's a good offense for him. The success of Zach Wilson, the good of Zach Wilson, is the quick release, the ability to throw off platform, which is a non-negotiable in this Dolphins offense. You have to be getting rid of the ball very quickly. You have to be able to throw RPOs, play action, throw for some weird platforms. So I think it's an offense in which you can look good. And the nature of quarterbacking, and specifically quarterback 2 in the NFL, is that if you got drafted early, you get like 3 or 4 cracks at this, right? It's Baker Mayfield theorem, right? Who went to Carolina. It did not work. He was waived in the middle of the season. He went to the Rams, started one random week. Okay, he goes to the Buccaneers on a 1-year, $4 million deal. Bang. All of a sudden, we figured it out. Geno Smith, same thing, a couple of backup spots before the Seattle success. Sam Darnold, a couple of backup spots before the Minnesota success. Zach Wilson was the second overall pick. Everybody in the league knows his name, scouted him, watched every one of his BYU games for multiple years, loved the arm talent, loved the mobility. He's going to keep getting bites of the apple, right? He got his bite in the apple in Denver. All right, Bo Nix is good. Don't worry about it. He's going to get his bite in the apple in Miami. Maybe Tua does go down for 8 weeks. Maybe Zach Wilson has a great 8 weeks, and it gives him a chance to win a starting job somewhere else. Or maybe it never happens, and he'll be the backup in Los Angeles Rams, and it's Sean McVay, and it's another bite. That's just when you're early drafted, you get so many cracks at this that it's very likely you carve out a decent career as a QB2 just by virtue of name recognition.
All right, Pac-12, may it rest in peace, even though it's been resurrected. It's just a different league. But, of course, as a result of the University of Utah's affiliation for a number of years, we saw a lot of these quarterbacks play up close. So I want to stick with the quarterbacks and stick with some former Pac-12 quarterbacks. And it was a wild offseason for Caleb Williams for a number of different reasons. They have a new coach who's an offensive juggernaut. At least that's his reputation. And they do have a loaded offensive roster. What does year 2 for Caleb Williams in Chicago look like, Ben?
Yeah, so if you go back and you watch some truly disastrous rookie quarterback seasons, you go back and you watch 2018 Mitch Trubisky, and you go back and you watch 2023 Bryce Young, the sort of seasons that we watched and we were like, dang, this might not be it. It might be done. And then you go and you watch Caleb. Caleb clearly had a better season than that group. He absolutely did. Statistically, it's borne out. He's, higher yards per dropback, higher success rate. He just was overall a little bit more effective. But then when you watch it especially, you see more peak plays, more 90th percentile, holy smokes, how did he throw that? How did he escape that plays? You see fewer 10th percentile, what a disaster, what was he looking at, horrible sack, horrible interception plays. And then the reality is that the plays in between, the just kind of average plays, good plays, not so good plays, just continues to fail at the feet of a extremely bad offensive system there in Chicago. So poorly coached, receivers constantly out of position, lazy routes, bad pass protection, bad rules, backflowing their responsibility, horrible situational football. It's just the incubator was so bad. Anybody who says, Zach Wilson ended up in a bad spot with the Jets, for as correct as they might be, the Caleb Williams landing spot for the 2024 Bears and that Shane Waldron offense was deplorable. So you just assume that the floor, right? Just Williams, again, we're not talking about the 90th percentile heroic plays got him drafted first overall, nor are we talking about the terrible 10th percentile plays. He had bad misses. He takes these egregious sacks. Just his middling plays, his average plays are going to result in much more functional offenses. There's going to be a lot more 2nd and 6s, a lot more 3rd and 4s in this offense than were last year, where it was 2nd and 10s and 3rd and 15s. Because the tide should rise around him, that rising tide of Ben Johnson, that rising tide of better players should just lift all boats there in the Chicago offense. So I expect a much better year 2. He's got to get the sack numbers down. Got to learn how to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. The lack of deep ball connections with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, these are serious concerns. There's things to improve upon. But if he plays like exactly the same as he did last year with no improvement, the Bears' offense is still just going to be a lot better because the other 10 around him plus play caller are just going to be a lot more functional.
I don't know if you heard, Ben, but Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th round. I'm not sure if you caught wind.
News for me. Yeah. All right. I'm breaking news on the radio.
There you go. So the Browns QB room is Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Who comes out on top? Who's under center for the Browns this year?
Ask me in August, man. I got no idea. Like it's about as bad of a quarterback room situation and that I've ever heard of. I'll tell you what I believe to be true, what I believe confidently, and then I've got nothing for you afterwards. I don't think this team will keep Sanders and cut Dylan Gabriel. It would be shocking, right? It's going to be hard to carry 4 quarterbacks. It's already hard enough to carry 3. And so if they are committed to Flacco and they're committed to Pickett, I think that they're going to keep Dylan Gabriel. They drafted him 2 rounds earlier. He's not the, media headache that Sanders is. And then they'll cut Sanders and they'll see if they can get him back on the practice squad or maybe somebody else will pick him up. So I firmly believe that if they keep the 2 veterans, they keep Gabriel over Sanders, and accordingly, Sanders would be a 53-man cut in August. Doesn't mean he won't make the practice squad. Doesn't mean we won't see him play. But just that'll be the transaction when we get to 53-man roster cut. So I believe that to be true. And then the second thing I believe to be true is that Kenny Pickett's the worst quarterback in that group. I've seen enough Pickett at the NFL level. I know that there's a very thin window to the future for Kenny Pickett. The physical attributes are not that strong. The mental attributes are really lacking over his time there in Pittsburgh. I don't think this is a good offensive system for him. It's very hard to imagine him beating out just Joe Flacco and what Flacco has been in the past for the Browns. And so I do think that from a quality perspective, there's a way for Sanders to be the 3rd best or maybe even better quarterback on that roster. But I'm not sure he's going to get that sort of a treatment over a veteran like Pickett, for whom they traded. Of course, they traded for Pickett and then drafted 2 quarterbacks later. So I think he's a dart throw just like the rest of them. So again, I think Gabriel's on the roster for sure. I think Flacco's on the roster for sure. I got nothing else for you after that.
Fair enough. We've got a lot of Bronco fans around here, and they've got a former Pac-12 quarterback under center, year 2. They had Evan Ingram. They grab R.J. Harvey in the 2nd round, and they've got a good young wide receiver group. Cortland Sutton, of course, really good year last year. What does year 2 for Denver look like with Bo Nix under center?
I think it's going to look quite good. They knew they needed to get more weapons. They did a very nice job, kind of coloring in as best they could with players like Marvin Mims last year, like the big rotation at tight end and Devon Bailey. And so they add R.J. Harvey in the 2nd round, running back out of UCF. They add Pat Bryant out of Illinois, 3rd round wide receiver. To bring Evan Ingram, the tight end, like you brought up, just to bring more weapons into the fold. Sean Payton's offense is always going to be an offense that feeds a lot of mouths. And so it's not sort of offense where it's like, all right, we have Cortland Sutton, let's go, trade for a star receiver. No, they just kind of want to have bodies on bodies. They big rotations. They have tons of personnel groupings, and that's how they stay very multiple and they stay hard to deal with. It's going to be a very high floor offense. It's going to be a very functional offense. That's what it was for the back half of last season. We got to remember, Nick started the season really rough, right? It was no touchdowns to 4 picks. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league by success rate and time to throw. The water was up to his neck. He was kind of drinking through the fire hose the way the rookies often do. And then Sean did a nice job, I think, dialing back some of what Bo was responsible for in the offense. They started throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage a lot, swing passes, screens, designed to check downs, just get rid of the ball quickly, ran a lot of sprint outs, stuff that he was familiar with in college, and that eased his onboarding process, got a lot more confident, got a lot more accurate as the season went on. Very interested to see how we come out of the gate in year 2. Is Bo ready for a bigger menu? Or if we put a bigger menu in front of him, is he going to have a regression again, and we're going to kind of have to dial back his responsibility? So the floor is set quite nicely. Sean Payton runs a great offense. They have a lot of weapons. The ceiling is Bo, and the ceiling is if he took a sophomore leap from a game management perspective, from a aggressiveness and throwing down the field perspective in year 2. That remains to be seen. We'll find out in September. Jordan
Love played his college ball here in state and, of course, sat behind Aaron for a minute. And then for 2 years, he has started for the Packers under center, and he's been good. I don't think there's any debate about that. I mean, 5th last year in QBR, 25 touchdown passes, 11-6. That's a tough division. It's tough to make a lot of headway there. But is there more in the tank? Do we see Jordan Love, I'll use a cliche, reach the next level this year?
Yeah, there is a next level to be reached. There absolutely is. Jordan Love's last 2 seasons as a starter, he's had 11 interceptions in both of those seasons, 30 sacks in 2023, only 14 in 2024. He cut down on the sack total, which is great. But Love is a very aggressive pocket passer. And in a league that is increasingly scrambling. And I think that shows that quarterbacks want to get outside of the pocket, and that the scramble is one of the most valuable plays that we have. It turns a sack into a positive gain. It eliminates negatives and creates positives. Love continues to just resist scrambling. He's got the movement skills. He does not really want to use them. And so we have a high interception player who did a good job cutting down on the sacks, but doesn't create enough when he moves outside of the pocket. And accordingly, that Packers offense, which is good, it is a good offense. There's no doubt. I just did my top 10 offense rankings for ESPN. They were in my top 10. They do have 3-4 games a year where it just feels like they lay a goose egg, right? They just come out flat and they totally miss and they can never get the engine going. And it's because they're so predicated on these explosives. They throw downfield so much. They rip off these big games that when they're not there, they don't do enough to kind of keep the sticks moving, scrambling instead of attempting those deep passes, just move the sticks, get a new set of downs. They were third last year in explosive pass rate. They were only 15th in success rate, which is just a measurement of what percentage of your plays are positive, what percentage of your plays are expected to generate points for you. So they need to smooth out. They need to be a little bit more consistent, and a lot of that falls on the quarterback and his decision-making process. So Love, knocking on the door of top 10 quarterbacks playing in the NFL right now. I think some people would have him in that top 10 and deservedly so, but there is a next level to reach. And a lot of it is the same growth you saw from Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in their youth, which is learning how to just take the positive play, fight for another down.
When you measure it by proximity, now the closest pro football team to our little city out here is the Las Vegas Raiders. And Geno Smith is not a recent Pac-12 guy, but Chip Kelly coached in the Pac-12, and so did Pete Carroll. So we have an interesting kind of new partnership.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like for Vegas with Geno Smith and Chip Kelly? What's that pairing going to look like?
I'm extremely bullish. I think the Raiders are the team that I expect to potentially improve the most from their 2024 win total into their 2025 win total, which is a hard thing to say in a division with the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. They have to play those 6 games, but the Raiders tend to play their division games very tight. I think that the Antonio Pierce Raiders were really poorly coached. I think that there was just a lot of meat left on the bone. I think that team unraveled as the season went on. You saw Devontae Adams force his way out via trade. It was a bad situation. Pete Carroll is such an immediate floor raiser, such an immediate culture setter as far as the head coach goes. They're going to be serious. They're going to be successful right away. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to be on top of their schemes and so on and so forth. Then you throw in Chip, who I think Chip, as the NFL head coach, got too far over his skis and got too, obsessed with his own system and maximizing that and kind of just min-maxing for the spread and the tempo and what have you. I think Chip, the OC, is going to have a nice, more bridle on him, right? His second time here in the NFL, a little bit better understanding of what he can and can't get away with. Quarterback in Geno Smith is a very reliable trigger man who throws the ball exactly where it's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. He's smart, he's aggressive, he's accurate. A young back in Ashton Gentry can take on a high volume of touches already in the NFL. And then Brock Bowers, who just is like the coolest dude in the world. Bowers is going to be in the conversation for best tight end in football by this time next year. And I don't know if he's going to be it. George Kittle's still around. Trey McBride are good players, but he's going to be in that conversation because he's such a unique and youthful player at the tight end position. I think they're going to be quite good. The Raiders do. I think they're going to be better than 500, knocking on the wild card race pretty much the whole way.
Two-tiered question, last quarterback question. Then I've got one more for you, Ben, that'll set you loose. So Minnesota, to no one's surprise, really, will ride with J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold, who, as I've told you before, when the Jets drafted Sam, I'm like, okay, finally, this is the guy. Didn't turn out that way. Makes his way out to the Pacific Northwest to play for the Seahawks. So what do you make of Minnesota's decision? What do you think it's going to look like with J.J.? And then your thoughts on Sam in Seattle.
Yeah, Minnesota, you got to read some tea leaves, but you also don't because they drafted J.J. McCarthy 10th overall, so they very clearly like him and they think he's going to be the future. They were talking to Sam Darnold about contracts. I don't think the door was shut on Sam Darnold coming back and competing with J.J., potentially holding that job as J.J. came back, but they got priced out of where they wanted to be on the Sam Darnold market. They 100% checked on the veteran quarterback market after Sam, right? There was the Aaron Rodgers rumors, but they were doing all their homework on all the quarterbacks. They didn't really have a QB2 as well as not necessarily having a QB1, right? They didn't have a good backup behind behind McCarthy once Darnold left in free agency. And so do you read into that as a lack of faith in McCarthy, or do you just think, hey, they wanted to find a veteran QB2 because it's good to have a veteran QB2 in the NFL? You're a little bit prognosticating from the outside. The long and the short of it is that Kevin O'Connell is extremely good. He deserves to be mentioned in the era of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. He is extremely good at coaching around a quarterback. and he has a rookie that he hand selected who's spent now a year in the system, even if he wasn't physically able to do anything. And he showed O'Connell showed us last year his ability to work around a quarterback in the passing game and create explosive games out of average quarterback play. And now they've made huge investments in the running game, right? They have 3 new interior offensive linemen from last year into this year. Donovan Jackson, the rookie at left guard, Will Fries at right guard, Ryan Kelly at center. They added Jordan Mason from the 49ers to be a good ball carrier for them as well. Like, they might even be better of a quarterback incubator than they were previously. So McCarthy could be the 24th best quarterback in the NFL, and they might still go 11-6 just because of how good that offensive infrastructure has become. So a lot of faith in Minnesota, even if, there were a couple red flags over the course of this offseason. And then Darnold in Seattle, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think they downgraded Geno to Sam. I think that's pretty clear when you look at those guys' last few years of starting. Clinton Kubiak, obviously the new OC there in Seattle, spent time with Sam when they were together in San Francisco. So there's some scheme comfort there. It's not a dissimilar scheme to what Sam ran with the Vikings. But instead of doing it with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson, you're doing it with Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Noah Fant. It's just not the same caliber of weapons. The offensive line there in Seattle is not too strong either. And we know the one thing that Sam really can't deal with is pressure. I understand why they're taking the, quote unquote, low risk swing on seeing if Sam Darnold's career resurgence is legit. But I think the cost of moving on from Geno is too much. So I'm not too excited about what we'll see from Sam in Seattle, but rooting for the guy, because if he can turn this career around, that'll be a cool thing to see.
Last thing, Ben, I'll set you loose on this. According to Vegas, they're telling us that the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills and the Lions, those 5 teams are the safest bets to win the Super Bowl this year. So my 2-tiered question before I set you loose is, do you believe the Super Bowl winner will come from that group? And if there's a team outside of that group of 5, who may that be?
Yeah. So I think anytime you give me Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, I want to have that group. I just think that the top tier of the AFC is so clear. The Bills and the Ravens are just miles ahead of anybody from a roster perspective, quarterback play perspective. And then even if the Chiefs have their warts, which they clearly do, proof of the pudding's in the eating. We can't count them out of this thing. They were like awful on offense last year, and they still made it. So anytime I get that group, I'm taking that group. And if you give me the Eagles and the Lions as cherries on top, I think it's more likely than not your Super Bowl winners in that 5 than outside of that 5. I will say that to me, the odd man out in that group is the Lions. You lose both your coordinators. Your longtime center, Frank Ragnow, retires. This is a team that's been close but not quite in the cheaper years. Now they're starting to get a little bit more expensive. So it's hard to see them kind of making the improvements in the margins of the roster that they need to. Jared Goff, just as a Super Bowl quarterback, does not inspire me the way that you're going to get from Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And so the Lions, to me, read as the odd team out. I would be more willing to put a Matthew Stafford-led Rams team or a Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers team, to be honest. I think the Buccaneers are going to be very good this year in that NFC conversation. Not necessarily ahead of the Lions, but I think the Lions deserve to be in the tier with the Rams and the Bucs, not up there with the Eagles, who are the understandable and presumed favorites in the NFC.
Ben, good stuff, my friend. We'll set you loose, but just so you know, I've got a great testosterone guy. Just hit me up. I can send him your way, okay?
Appreciate it, Spence. Yeah, I'm worried about this now. It's been part of my career.
All right. The great Ben Solak covers the NFL for ESPN. Get him on Twitter at Benjamin Solak is where you find him. We've been having Ben on the show for about, in August it will be 6 years. And it's been fun to watch him rise through the ranks, man. He's a bright kid, does a really good job analyzing the league for ESPN. So at Benjamin Solak is where you find him on social. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Coming up next, it is Radio Gold. You never know where it's going to go. We'll probably do some college football, maybe some NBA, maybe some soccer. Maybe we'll debate Ben Stiller's best movies or talk about, Death Cab for Cuties vinyls. You never know. Chris Camerani's live in studio for an entire hour. Coming up on the other side of a Thursday drive right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Could be the final day of the NBA season. If we're doing Elton John, I'm going to need a little Tiny Dancer. I know it's cliche, but we need a little Almost Famous vibe on the show today. It could be the final day of the pro basketball season as Oklahoma City is looking to eliminate the Indiana Pacers tonight. The Pacers just took the floor 8 minutes ago for their pregame walkthrough. And during that walkthrough, the status of Tyrese Halliburton will be determined by the medical staff. We probably won't know until tip. Live in studio, injury experts, among other things. Chris Camerani. I always get a kick out of guys in our business when there's like an injured player who just played doctor on air or on TV. Strained calf could lead to a torn Achilles, all the things. Do you have any?
Is that what he's dealing with?
Yeah, strained calf. Do you have any hot medical takes for us on Tyrese Halliburton's status?
Well, I've heard that a strained calf can lead to an Achilles.
That's the take today. I've heard that 25 times today.
People are probably just lazy and assuming that a strained calf that Kevin Durant suffered 6 or 7 years ago in the finals that led to a torn Achilles could potentially do the same thing. I know there is a correlation, so we can't discount that.
Sure.
But my Halliburton take is the Pacers probably need Halliburton to win Game 6.
Good take. Good take,
Is
CK.
it going to happen?
I don't think so. I mean, I picked Oklahoma City in 5. It's a historic season when you look at the metrics. And you know me, I'm a data guy. Analytics, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Their net was plus 13.
What about their PER?
The PER is a little bit dated, CK.
Okay,
just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, God bless John Hollinger.
Okay.
But the PER is a little bit dated. Have you ever been aggregated, by the way?
Yes, but not for like online stuff, more just stories.
Uh-huh.
I got aggregated up the wazoo when I went and hung out with Stone Cold Steve Austin because like he doesn't give a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So all of the wrestling blog websites aggregated a lot of my stuff. And one of my colleagues, Chris Vanini,
shout out Chris,
national writer at The Athletic, is a huge wrestling fan, and he was like, "Dude, this aggregated tweet has like over like 1,000 retweets in like an hour," and it was just basically somebody rewriting the most interesting things that Steve told me in our interview.
Well, someone who doesn't frequent wrestling blogs, I guess that's why I was unaware that you were aggregated for Stone Cold. You have, over the course of your career doing this, how long have you been doing this in media?
13, 14 years.
13 years. You've interviewed a lot of really fascinating characters. And one of the things I like about your work is you really do think out of the box. Sorry for a cliched thing to say. Is there one that stands out? Like instantly, if I say to you, most interesting conversation you've ever had in your life as a journalist,
On the record?
Yeah, is there one that stands out?
If we're talking on the record, honestly, it might be recency bias, but it might be my days in Hawaii with Trevor Riley.
Yeah.
Honestly, like just because for about 48 hours, Trevor and I were basically on the record driving around the Big Island
Right.
about anything from the University of Utah football recruiting to Deion Sanders to visiting the Middle East and how you go about making sure you don't have any cultural, misguided miscues, all those things.
Yeah.
I mean, my brain's been fried since becoming a parent, so I'll go. Recency bias is definitely Trevor, but there are other ones. I mean, even last year, Steve's up there. There's a lot of them, man. I'm gonna have to circle back to
Jake
this.
Plummer. That Jake Plummer piece was really interesting,
Jake was
man.
really good. Yeah. Sometimes people are interesting. Sometimes their stories are more interesting. Like a few years ago, I went out to Colorado to do a story on Trey McBride, who is second. He was the second round pick of the Cardinals, and now he's one of the highest paid. I think he is the highest paid tight end in the NFL. Went to Colorado State, and he was raised by two moms, and that
interesting.
Don't really have a lot of historical context for NFL players who were raised by two moms. So I went out there and spent 2 days with them and got to hang out at their house, go with them while they did Meals on Wheels and all the stuff. It was very, very cool. So there are interesting people, and then there are people who have very, very cool stories.
For sure.
There's a lot. I'm going to have to circle back.
Okay.
Because my brain is a little mushy since,
When my phone rings and it's Trevor, I go, okay, here we go.
What's
here we
about
go.
to happen?
Because dude, you never know. Ever. Like,
Yeah.
truly, I cannot predict what's about to happen. And every conversation includes some wild twist and turn.
Yeah.
Where are you at? What are you doing for work? You know, like, I can't say what he told me as far as what he's going to do next the last time I talked to him, but it's a completely different thing than what he's been doing.
It's interesting. Like, the people like that, most people would assume that they're usually bloviating or more often than not stretching the truth. But in my time with Trevor, everything that sounded too good to be true actually was true. There's a lot of people that are like that. Some people are just very good storytellers. Some people have very interesting lived life experiences.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know Trevor had a very interesting lived experience working for Deion Sanders, but like, the guy got into a physical altercation with his assistant coach, like, and it was caught on video, and like Warren Sapp is narrating it. Like, I appreciate people like Trevor who are a dime a dozen in the sports world, because he doesn't necessarily have time for the he doesn't necessarily like kowtow to what most people expect to be like the norm, in that he's just going to tell you the truth and what happened, and he's not going to like maybe what's the word I'm looking for here? He's just going to tell you what happened, and that's generally what happened.
He's not going to acquiesce to the norm. He's just
I mean, like, he told me that, back in the day, Utah's SIDs were always like shaking in their boots anytime Trevor was requested to talk as a player.
Sure,
because Trevor was just going to be like, yeah, UCLA's quarterback sucks.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't get guys like that in this industry really ever. So when you get them, you have to appreciate what they can offer for you.
Well, it's a dream for people like us, because what it's turned into.
Because sorry to interrupt you.
No,
because
go
he
ahead.
doesn't expect any sort of reciprocation, which is
also a good point.
Which is maybe where you were going in this day and age, where it's kind of like scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, which is not how my job goes. And I mean, Trevor's pro, man. He played in the NFL for like 6 years. He played here. He knows how it goes. Whereas a lot of people who either make it to that level or even don't generally are operating in a realm of maybe mistrust, because it's not easy to trust people that you don't know that well, or entrust them with your story or your word. But Trevor is the type of person that will just tell you and move on. Like, he's not thinking about it.
Right.
As soon as I filed my story, it wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, I wonder if Trevor's going to be pissed about what's in the story.
Yeah.
It was like the next time I heard from him, it wasn't even like, didn't even talk about it.
Probably wasn't even on his radar.
Correct.
Right? Who would play Trevor in the biopic?
Ooh.
Chris Pratt?
No, God, no. Come on, how dare you?
I'm just trying to think of like action, because I always used to kid with Trev.
Bigger.
Like, Trevor and I did a ton of radio back in the day together, a lot of pre-F and post-game football, for both Utah and BYU, and he would roll in studio for an hour at the old station, and he still rolls in here when he's in town. And he would tell me these stories off air that were so wild, yet, to your point, true, that they actually happened. And I started to, I'm like, you're Batman, dude. Like, you're a real life you're the real life Batman. It's wild to consider all the nutty things our guy has really gotten himself into.
The problem is guys who are funny generally aren't 6'5".
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, Keanu's not funny enough. Like, Keanu is like stoner funny. Like, he's Bill Ted. Ooh. We're gonna have to circle back on that.
Let's table it. Let's table it.
I like that.
No,
it might come to me.
But what I was going to say is the reason Trevor is such a breath of fresh air, and I don't really know when to pinpoint this as far as when it happened, but like, I have stopped following athletes on social media. Like, I don't need to follow Steph where it's like, all right, game time, or Donovan, like Cav, like, you don't get anything interesting from most of these athletes. Now, that's not a blanket statement that's true for all of them. But whether it's a coach or a player sitting down with a journalist like you, doing a interview with a radio host like me, or addressing the media post-game, it's rare that you get something that is anything other than boilerplate cliche, walk the company line.
But you know why that is.
But it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that beat writers, reporters were entrusted with the word of the athlete, because there wasn't social media. The internet really hadn't taken off. And even like within the last 5 to 7 years, that's changed. even as Twitter started, you still hadn't seen the marketing, the monetization of the social media platforms, my story in my own words. And that's fine. I don't necessarily get frustrated that athletes no longer give the scoop to, a writer. A lot of these guys are writing the Players Tribune stuff, and oftentimes they're very, very good. Sometimes, they come on the 4th of July in consecutive years. Sometimes, your 4th of July is ruined. Tea time.
Gordon.
Too big.
Yep.
We
need to bring back a little Too Big, yo.
We do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a reality check topic. I like that. We could spend hours and hours on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting to consider. Any other so Trevor Riley, certainly good answer to the question. From a local standpoint, I mean, I don't mean to butter you up. You're very good at your job. So you get good things from Kyle when you sit down with Kyle. You get good things from, our local players and coaches when you have access to them. Is there any other, whether it's Jazz or BYU or even RSL or the University of Utah, any other notable interviews or stories you've done that really stand out, or characters kind of like in the ilk of Trev?
Quinn's the Quinn profile I did, I think the year after. It was not the year that they beat OKC when they had Paul George and Russ and Carmelo. It was the year after. So they were still kind of on their upward trajectory. The
reason you know that so well is because Ricky Rubio played for the Jazz, and
people confused me.
Sorry, man, you just look like him.
When I would go to the ZBBC, fans were waiting outside asking for interviews, and one time somebody basically almost stepped out in front of my crappy rusty Subaru. It was like, Ricky, and I was like, come on, man.
Didn't you have a Rubio kit?
Yeah,
at one point
I was gifted a Rubio kit.
Yeah.
You know who gave it to me.
I would guess it was Falk.
Yeah.
It's not Antonio Daniels' Vancouver Grizzly kit,
no.
but by the way, real quick before you continue, Trav had no frame of reference. We were talking about, because we're going to play Wasatch soon. When we're going to get up and we're going to do the Wasatch. Yeah.
You didn't respond to the text. So
I had a busy couple days, bro.
Did you?
Okay. I had a busy couple days, but I was talking to Trav about it because Trav is doing the finals, and for our listeners, Travis Henderson, the supremely talented executive producer of Jazz broadcast games, is currently broadcasting the NBA Finals. Our guy could do what he does.
Does it every year.
Does it every year. People in our market don't know how talented Travis Henderson is. Yeah. He is a gem to have here. Mm-hmm. So he's currently doing the finals, but we were going back and forth about our Wasatch weekend, and he didn't know he didn't know the context. He's like, is he going to wear that Antonio Daniels jersey again? I'm like, probably. Yeah. He's like, where did he get that? I'm like, your boy over here.
It's a great jersey.
It's a great story, too.
It's a great story. I can't believe you found it in such good condition.
Yeah.
It's got to be at least 20 years old.
And it fits you.
It's great.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's in great condition. It's on a hanger in my closet.
That a guy. It was literally the only one online. I did a bunch of
eBay.
It was eBay.
Yeah.
I found it on eBay. But for our listeners, CK, you were in studio with Amy, I think?
Yeah, it was during COVID.
During COVID, so stuff was weird.
Yeah.
We both had man buns.
Yeah, and you talked about, I dropped an Antonio Daniels reference, and you were like, if you could name the first team that Antonio Daniels played for, I'll give you $100. And I was like, if I can name him, I'll take a jersey. And then
That's close.
Was it?
So what happened was, you brought up the fact Jazz fans were mad that Antonio Daniels had something critical to say about Donovan.
That's right.
And my thing was why do we care what Antonio Daniels says? And I said to the two of you, if you can name the team that drafted Antonio Daniels, I'll give you $1,000. That's how convinced I was you weren't going to be able to do it.
I should have taken that.
And you didn't even pump fake.
Yeah.
Boom, Vancouver Grizzlies. Yeah. And then because you're a gentleman, you said, I will accept an Antonio Daniels jersey instead of $1,000.
Well, it's the best jersey in the history of the NBA.
It's a great jersey.
And segue, Antonio Daniels also played for the Seattle Supersonics.
Yes, he did.
Who once upon a time were the Seattle Supersonics before they were the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, he did. Since you brought that up real quick, we got a couple minutes here in this segment before we break. I think the NBA is going to approve expansion this year.
Really?
I think in the offseason, I don't know this to be true, but the more and more I read into it, the more and more I talk to people, there's a lot of momentum to get a team back in Seattle and then have one in Las Vegas. I think that is going to be approved this offseason. Now, the undercurrent of the Vegas team is that LeBron wants to be an owner.
Right.
And so a lot of people believe that Adam Silver is kind of brokering that deal behind the scenes. And LeBron has 1 year left on his contract. He got his kid a job in the league, so I think he's probably ready to step aside, and then he'll probably be the face of the Vegas NBA franchise. I don't know what the Seattle situation is going to look like, but it was announced yesterday, CK, that the LA Lakers were sold. And when you dig into this, and then you look at the new owners in Dallas, and you look at the new owners in Phoenix, Ishbia, and potentially LeBron and his crew in Vegas with deep-pocketed investors, and I would imagine plenty of titans of industry up in Seattle, so whoever gets that organization. The reason I'm bringing it up is the Lakers were sold to a gentleman who currently owns the Dodgers. And, man, where's his name here?
Mark Walter.
Mark Walter, thank you. So Mark Walter is currently the owner of the Dodgers. He tried to buy the Clippers. He was outbid by Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer has a net worth of $130 billion. This Mark Walter gentleman allegedly or reportedly has a net worth that is in that cul-de-sac, $130 billion.
It's a decent cul-de-sac.
The money that's coming in, like, I don't know Qualtrics financials. When Ryan bought the team, the number I saw was
two, wasn't it?
Well,
he less than two.
I think the Qualtrics valuation, I think, was $24 billion.
Oh, I was talking about the Jazz sale.
The Jazz sale, Ryan paid $800 million for it, okay. And then I think with investors, let's see, Porter, will you look up what Ryan bought the Jazz for, please? So I think it was approaching 2. Yeah. It was over 1, right? So 1.4, 1.5, maybe closer to 2. Ryan himself wrote a check for $800 million. And again, I don't really know the financials of Qualtrics or Ryan, but Ryan, his brother, his dad at the time, who tragically has passed, and one of their business partners, I believe, split it 4 ways. Obviously, Ryan has investors other than his own bank account. But there's this movement and momentum in the NBA now where even if you have $5-6 billion, $1.6 billion was the price tag. Like, so Ryan put up half of that. So when Ryan took over the team, the narrative was, well, okay, we've got a tech rich bro that has deeper pockets than the Millers. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Like, there's a world now where Ryan is no longer this guy that has such deep pockets. Like, if there are $130 billion, you'll pay whatever you want to for your NBA team. I mean, Mark, the guy that just bought the Lakers, owns the Dodgers. Their payroll is $140 million more than whoever is in second. I think it might be the Angels. The Yankees are actually in 4th. There's like this movement now where these guys have monopoly money, and it might even make the playing field more uneven if they don't give a rip about luxury tax or second apron.
Yeah. I don't know how much that affects the Jazz, though, because at the end of the day, the Jazz are never going to outbid anybody for free agents. So, like, that might affect the New York, Chicago, Dallas, L.A. markets. Maybe it'll affect the Vegas market if that comes to fruition. But for Salt Lake, for the Jazz, that's never going to affect the people working for them here because you have to be able to strike the lottery 4 or 5 times in a decade in order to build a contender. And I didn't mean to use the word lottery in such a painful year for the Jazz, so apologies for the Jazz fans listening. But like, I always, and it's lazy, but I always think of the Spurs, and I think of the Spurs after David Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I think of
it's the right parallel.
I think
yeah.
You have to get a top 3 pick, or the first pick would be great. You get Tim Duncan, and then from there they build a dynasty out of a bunch of dudes that people either didn't rate, underrated, or just never really have even
second round picks. Yeah,
so it's doable, but I don't know how much monopoly money that billionaires are spending in larger markets will affect the team here.
Yeah, it's the right parallel to use, and I don't think it's lazy because I think it's a different league now. It's a different collective bargaining agreement, so it's hard to draw a straight line, but what the Spurs did with that group should give Jazz fans hope that in a city like Salt Lake, you can actually do it. I mean,
but you could still look at the Nuggets. The Nuggets drafted the best player in the world, second round player. So it's like it's still doable. You just it sounds reductive, but at the end of the day, all you have to do is get good players.
Somebody listens to The Drive Monday through Friday, 2 to 6. Manu Ginobili, second round pick, better known around here as a rich man's Talon Horton Tucker, right?
That's what I've heard.
You got to stop sending me that kid's tweets. All right, ESPN 700 welcomes Nate Jackson to Kingsbury Hall, November 7th, 2025. Tickets are on sale now. Text LAUGH to 877-353-0700. That's LAUGH to 877-353-0700 for a chance to win tickets to see Nate Jackson at Kingsbury Hall. Favorite stand-up comic, CK, before we break, of all time?
Of all time, Chappelle, but Bill Burr is making a very hard charge.
Bill Burr is making a very hard charge. If you are married to a white woman, do not watch Bill Burr's stand-up comedy.
Bill Burr not married to a white woman.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
But if you are, do not watch his comedy because he very much calls white women out for everything. We'll catch a break. More with CK coming up on the other side of a Thursday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. Little known Spence Checketts fact. CK, you ready for it? Let's get his mic on. You ready for a little known Spence Checketts fact?
Go.
I just went third person twice. I never do that. Love Elton John. Absolutely love Elton John. I saw Elton John and Billy Joel together at Madison Square Garden, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago. One of the best shows I've ever seen.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So were they on a tour together? Or was
They
that
were.
Okay.
No, they were on a tour together.
Yeah.
And yeah.
My in-laws went to Elton's last concert here.
Mhm.
I had a bunch of friends go to Elton's last concert here. I bet he puts on a really good show.
And I haven't seen it in 15 years or so. Like, how old how old would you guess Elton John is now?
I'm gonna guess. Porter's gonna fact check, or you're gonna fact check.
Let's go.
On this. I'm gonna go 74.
78.
Oh,
They're pretty close.
that's close.
So I don't know what sort of energy he has at this stage of his career. So I saw him when he
I
was.
think he has like little kids, man.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like these old rich people are just like, yeah, I feel like being a dad again.
Dave Letterman. I listened to an interview with Dave Letterman, and he's like, yeah, I've just started having kids. He's like in his 70s.
No, Dave had a kid towards the tail end of his show because I remember it was a big deal because he really didn't have kids until he was like in his 50s, and then he had like the heart thing because I was a Letterman guy. I remember it was a big deal that Dave Letterman had a kid.
You are correct.
Okay.
Harry Letterman is
Harry.
21 years old.
Yep.
But then there was a gap, and I think he's had a couple more.
Really? All right.
Anyway, in this interview,
Picasso?
potentially, in this interview, he was asked, like, what are your regrets? And he said that I didn't become a father younger. So I don't know Elton's current kid situation, but I saw him on tour. Let's see, he probably was in his early 60s. So I don't know what energy he has in his late 70s, but I would imagine it's worth your while. I know he didn't write most of his songs, but it's just like, I love his voice.
The vibes are good.
The vibes are great.
Yeah. I would
yeah.
imagine that, like, it is hard to have somebody, like, bollocks up the energy at a Elton John concert.
For sure.
Unless somebody is maybe singing a little too loud. I think that's, outside of talking in the movie theater, being at a concert and having somebody close to you singing louder than the actual person singing, to me, is like nails on a chalkboard.
You know, yes, I agree with you. Another recent development of mine is, and I noticed this, went to a music festival.
You wore your shoes off?
Of course.
Did you take a rug?
Of course. Obviously. Shoes off, gummy, the whole thing.
Really tight it
Having
all
a good
together.
time.
The rug really tied it all together.
It was in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Okay.
Dave and Tim.
Okay.
Right? Little camp. Little Father John Misty.
Oh, naturally.
Let's see.
John Butler Trio.
Yeah.
For real?
Wow. Yes. Excellent poll. Little Dawes, potentially. Randomly, Goo Goo Dolls, which pissed everybody off.
Hey.
Oh, no.
Iris is a
No.
great song.
No, it is not.
Spence, listen, man. We're of different eras. That was probably the annoying song when you were in college, and for me, it was the song that you wanted to dance with a girl to in like eighth, ninth grade.
Okay.
So like everybody has those songs, man, where you're just like kind of like, ooh, do I have the cojones?
I'm going to hit you with this lineup, and it's going to be right on brand for me.
Okay, I'm ready.
This is why we went, okay? So, Sound on Sound Music Festival 2022. Lumineers, Father John Misty, Head in the Heart, The National, Band of Horses, Trampled by Turtles, Brandy Carlisle.
Ooh.
Stevie Nicks was incredible. Zach Bryan, I actually saw Zach Bryan play.
Not a country singer, according to our guy Porter Larson.
Oh, no, yeah, dude. I made the mistake of being like, dude, I found a new country, and he was so mad at me.
He's pop country.
Okay, fair enough. The Roots were there as well, so that was fun. But what I realized is this is a young man's game, dude. Music festivals are a young man's game.
Wait, when was this?
2022.
But like what time of year? Sorry.
It was summer.
So it was hot,
Augusty,
humid.
yes, Augusty, I believe.
What
and
SPF were you working with?
45.
Okay.
So my whole let's go down this path. My sunscreen approach is this: 45-50 base, 15 spray with a little banana oil, right? A little coconut oil.
Oh,
Smells really nice.
You're looking to get some melanin in there.
Oh,
Okay.
look at me, man. I mean, you tan instantly.
Yeah.
I need a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a couple of
Well,
burns.
let's not. Yeah, bro. But we got to be careful with those burns. As long as you're hitting the derm.
You're wrong. We've been lied to.
Have we? Okay.
We have been lied to.
Okay,
Sun is
here we
good
go.
for you.
Okay.
Sun is good for you. Now, don't take my word for it. Anyone listening, wear sunscreen. Okay, don't be like, hey, I heard Spence said I should just get burned all the time. No, it's a slow burn, okay? And then eventually I tan, and it's a good look. So that's my sunscreen approach. 50 base, then we go with the spray with about 5, 10, 15.
Banana oil. I wasn't ready for that.
It smells so nice.
Do you do that on the golf course,
Oh,
too?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
In fact, next time you see our guy Gerald, he gives me a tremendous crap for it because it attracts bees.
Aren't you worried that it might, like, spill in your bag and then
The spray?
I mean, the oil.
No, first of all, I keep it in the side pocket.
Oh, naturally.
Would you like to know my golf bag setup?
Yeah.
Outside pocket, 2 gloves, usually new, to make sure I'm good. When I set up the bag, take the glove out, put the keys in the wallet in the outside pocket. Inside pocket, sunscreen, CBD oil for the back.
Yep.
Vapor type Vicks rub for the shoulder. I'm an old man at this point, so I have to make sure my injuries are all taken care of. Upper right pocket, my green, the tool you use to fix the green.
Oh, well, I have one.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously. My ball marker, which is magnetic, that sticks to that
What
tool.
happened to a quarter?
I have a couple quarters in there because Trey never has a ball marker.
Well, the guy from Happy Gilmore just picked it up.
Good pull.
Coming. The two's coming this summer, man.
I know.
Like next month. It's going to be bad.
I know.
But we can talk about it. I'm going to interrupt you. We'll go back. Have you watched Stick on Apple TV?
I have not. Owen Wilson, he bugs me.
It's Ted Lasso for golf.
Okay.
But Amanda is actually learning about golf, so they actually talk about golf.
Okay.
I think 30-minute shows. I'm just throwing it out there.
Owen
There's
Wilson.
nothing else to watch. I get it. I get it. To me, it's a little too wow. I get it.
Yes, exactly.
It's his character, Midnight in Paris. His best roles are in Wes Anderson movies historically, but the cast is good and the golf is good. So I would just recommend that. So back to your golf bag.
Well, no, okay. Let me finish that, and then we'll go to the best Owen Wilson movies because we have to.
Yeah.
It's like a staple of you, and it's also June.
Yeah.
So if you want to rank Utah's wide receivers from the Pac-12 era, just calm down. So in the pocket with my tool and my ball mark, that's where I keep my tees. Okay. Pocket below that, I have every potential tool that I would need to fix a club. So you have like a little screwdriver thing. I've got a couple rings in case
you can fix a club.
You have to fix a club when you have a powerful athletic swing, Chris.
Or when you break a club on the course.
Unnecessary drop in. And by the way, for the record, this year, no broken clubs.
Okay. What's changed?
The economic impact of breaking several clubs throughout the course of a season.
Not in this economy.
I cannot say that I've had 0 club throws, but I've had 0 club breaks.
What feels better? Letting go of a club in anger or swishing a three-pointer?
Oh, what a great question. Because, look, here's the bottom line. If you can keep yourself to under 3 club breaks a year, it sounds horrible. There's nothing more satisfying than breaking a club after
over the knee. Or
I've been over the knee. Okay. There's nothing more satisfying than breaking like a wedge. So if you hit if you rope your drive and you're like 95 yards out,
if you chunk it
or skull it, thin it, whatever.
Yep.
Because a new wedge is like $110, and that's not expensive enough to dissuade me from the feeling.
And they're pitching.
Gap,
yeah.
Okay, if we're 95 yards out. Oh, I know you do. And we'll get to your thoughts on the current tournament that's going on right now in the world of professional golf. But the problem is $110 is worth the price of how good it feels to break a wedge after you skull a little wedge, after roping a drive. So if you can keep it to 1 or 2 club breaks a year, then you're actually doing okay. But the problem is a couple of seasons, your boy over here, we're talking 4 or 5 club breaks.
Yeah, I would imagine that a driver would be the easiest club to break.
It is.
Because
it is.
It's less titanium steel or maybe, I don't know, it's carbon fiber.
Look at you. It is easier to break, but the problem is that's a little more punitive. A new driver, $350, $400. But a new wedge is like $110. So if you break a wedge, it feels so good. Now, you're judged instantly by the group, and people are probably like, I don't want to play with this dude. Like, he's throwing clubs, he's breaking clubs.
You play golf with people who judge you.
Well, I also play golf with other golfers who get angrier than I do, and I judge them. Okay. So, therefore, I know I'm being judged if I break a club.
The golf course seems to be a very therapeutic place.
It is.
Yeah, naturally.
It is. Let's see. We don't need to go over my club selection in my golf bag, but that's the gist of it. I could survive in the wilderness. Oh, Excedrin
Okay.
in the left pocket where the sunscreen
Are we
is.
talking Excedrin migraine or just plain Excedrin?
Just plain Excedrin.
Okay.
Now, you're an expert. Is there a big difference?
Yes.
Is there a difference in the caffeine boost?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Should I get migraine?
Oh, yeah. I mean, unless you get a certain type of headache. But, yes, it's always good to have Excedrin migraine handy.
Okay.
They have a smaller bottle. It's like 20 pills.
Okay.
It's like $6.
Okay, back to the Owen Wilson. First of all,
Stick. Just saying.
Okay, I'll check it out. An admission about why I'm somewhat anti-Owen Wilson, and it's really not his fault. So Vince Vaughn had this like 8-year run where nobody could match his ability to just basically ad-lib and be really quick and really funny.
Hot route.
Hot route.
You know I don't.
I was all state. I can put it wherever I want out here.
Take it right now.
I hate you. So it's really not Owen Wilson's fault that in the movie Wedding Crashers, he tried really hard to do the Vince Vaughn ad-lib thing, and it never landed to me because he was going next, toe-to-toe with the master.
Yeah.
So after that, I became very anti-Owen Wilson, but best Owen Wilson movie of all time is what?
His best movie or his best performance?
Either. We've got Midnight in Paris, which was a good movie.
I think his best movie is Midnight in Paris.
We got Grand Budapest. The West stuff is Darjeeling's really good.
Yeah, I would probably go best performance somewhere between Darjeeling and Royal.
He wasn't
Eli Cash.
Royal's the answer.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the answer.
It was written in a sort of obsolete vernacular.
Royal's the answer. Yep. Well, see, I knew we'd land on it.
Wildcat.
He was in Rushmore, but
very briefly.
But bit part.
Yep.
Rushmore, as it's well documented, is the best West movie. Period.
Yep.
Starsky and Hutch was pretty good.
Oh, that is a good one.
Let's see. Hall Pass was underrated funny.
Yes.
It's not the answer.
No.
But it was underrated funny.
Yes.
Because Sudeikis is funny too. All right. Anyway,
what are we doing?
Let's. There's no easy transition, but this is what we do when you roll in the studio. Yep. Gold Cup tonight. Yeah. U.S. men's national team taking on Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Yep.
Are we back after our dominant performance against the Trinidadians, Trinidad and Tobago, whatever? Are we back now? Are we so back, as the kids would say?
No, we're not so back. I think it'll depend on the result tonight, the performance tonight.
Okay.
Locally, we'll see if your boy Poch deploys Diego Luna again,
Moon Man,
yep. Who is basically, had a goal stolen from him on that shot, had an assist, seems to play very free and well in the system that Mauricio Pochettino likes to play. So I think Diego Luna plays better for the national team than he does for RSL because I feel like he has less on his shoulders. He's able to be more creative.
That makes sense.
And he's playing with a higher caliber player across the board for the most part. Are we back? I mean, five goals on a bad Trinidad and Tobago team is a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia is historically not a good team in Asia, so it should be another win. I don't know if it will be an easy win, but it should be a win. I'm enjoying. I don't know if you've been watching. I've been enjoying the Club World Cup.
I was going to ask you about it. Messi scored, right?
Yeah. And they beat Porto, which is
it's not
no
nothing.
Small feat.
It's not nothing. Yeah.
I mean, our former friends of the program, Danny Musovski and Albert Rusnak, are in the starting 11 for Seattle against Atletico Madrid. It starts at 4:00. So
wow.
And then
that's why you're looking at the clock.
And then their last group game is PSG, Seattle's. So
is it really?
Yeah.
Mbappe's in the hospital. He's not with PSG anymore anyway.
No, he's with Madrid, but he's in the hospital here.
He's in the hospital with
acute gastroenteritis, which is, I think, basically like scientific terms for like norovirus. So he might have got the worst thing imaginable.
Yeah,
I don't wish that on anybody.
No, because I mean the NBA went through this weird phase where like they would sit players out with gastric distress.
Yes.
Every time Jamal Tinsley went back to Brooklyn, he'd miss like 3 games with gastric distress. It's like, no, he went home and got loose with his homies.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, is that bad gas? But it's much worse than that. That must be so painful.
I bet bad gas is probably like 9th on the list of all the bad things that he's currently dealing with.
Are you good at understanding where the line is between bad gas and a heart attack? There have been days where I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. It's like, no, you're just plugged up.
So
this is great radio. By the way.
Like we can talk about this. One of my closest friends, he has a hard line of delineation between what is like a stomach ache
Mhm.
and what is like gas. To him, a stomach
This is great. No, I love it.
stomach ache is feeling a little nauseous
Okay.
to him.
Uh-huh.
Like he doesn't have time for the downtown stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's more like is it
Is it
venturing
rising?
north?
Is it rising?
Yes.
Yes.
And I tend to agree with it.
Yeah.
So I can tell you anything and everything you want to know about stomach issues.
Is it something you experience? Really?
Oh yeah.
Like ever since you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Are there certain foods you have to avoid, or else you're messed up for a minute?
I can't eat spice anymore.
Spice?
Spice, yeah. It's not even like I can't even eat a jalapeno.
You're the one that introduced me to Afghan Kitchen. You
Yeah.
can't eat spice?
No.
So
It's over for me.
if you grab some Afghan, what's the order now?
It's been a while.
Everything's spicy there.
Biryani chicken.
The biryani chicken is spicy.
No, it's not. No, bro, it's not.
Huh.
I mean, maybe you can ask to increase the spice level. I definitely don't.
Well, you can choose your level of spice.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's always a 0.
A 0?
Oh yeah.
Is this a recent development?
In the last 10 years.
Porter, how's your stomach with spice? Can you handle
He can
spice?
handle it. He's a farm boy.
He's a farm.
I have a literal garbage disposal. Like I could eat
Told you.
rotting meat, and I think my
Really?
stomach would just be cool.
Yeah.
He's also like, what? Are you 30 yet?
Barely.
He's also a very young man.
Yeah. I'm jealous of it.
I am too. Anyway, Diego plays better for the U.S. men's national
That's
team
my hot take.
than he does for RSL.
Plays more free.
Was Johnny Russell the missing piece all along?
Johnny Goals.
Our guy Johnny Goals has taken that
mean-
moniker from Johnny Mendez.
Well, he's taken the goals moniker from basically everyone else on the roster outside of Diego Luna.
Gozo has 2 now.
Gozo has 2.
Gozo has 2.
Listen, it does not bode. I mean, it's a good development for RSL, but it does not bode well for the state of the talent of the attacking talent on the roster. And I know a lot of them were gone,
Mm-hmm.
but they literally brought an old dude off the street, and he scored a goal in like his 3rd game,
Mm-hmm.
first start.
Yeah.
Some stuff you can't teach. Johnny Russell has like almost 70 goals in MLS, so the dude knows how to find the back of the net.
Yep.
He might be old. He might be a little bigger. It will help having that voice in the locker room, but, man, it does not speak well to the depth of the attacking talent on that team right now. But Gozo's been, I think, outside of Luna, Gozo's been the second best thing on this team this year.
I would agree with that. And I think they've got something with him.
Yeah.
Just graduated high school like 2 months ago,
Yep.
which is
And
wild.
a local kid, which is cool. Historically, we've been known to develop, defenders and midfielders. I guess we do have some kids. The
Was it
brothers-
the U16s or whatever?
No, the brothers who are playing in Europe, the Booth brothers.
The Booth brothers. Yeah,
that were-
that's right.
that were from Eden. They're
That's
they're
right.
over there. They're attacking players, but yeah, it's cool that Xavier is actually like a Utah-born.
For sure, for sure. Nick Raimondo is inducted into the Ring of Honor, which now has Jason Kreis, Javier Morales, and Nicky was the 3rd. Surprised that we don't have our guy KB5 up there?
I think I read somewhere that they're planning on doing that next year.
Oh, okay. Surprised that it was Nick first and Kyle? Am I making something out of nothing?
Did Nick retire before Kyle?
Yes, he did. Good point. That might be it.
Yeah.
And I guess Javier retired before Nick.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What
Because if we're talking, as a sports guy, generally you're up for such nominations, either very local or national or whatever, based on the time you retire.
This is true. You read Gordo's piece on Jay, right?
Yeah.
On Jason
Yep.
Kreis. You sent it to me. I didn't. Well, I knew
The
it was
Invisible Man.
Yes, I knew. I knew it was in the works because of our guy sending us the heads up.
Yep.
It's a really interesting path to consider how when Jay was here as the manager, winning MLS Cup in 09, the gaffer, thank you, and then should have won it in 13. 13 was probably the best team, right, of RSL history. Is that fair?
And probably should have won Champions League.
Should have won Champions League. It was 13.
It was second time was 13.
Yeah,
we
okay.
lost, yeah.
Would you say that's the best club in RSL history?
Talent-wise,
Better than 09, even though they won the Cup.
well, I think 10, 11, 12 were probably the best teams, but roster talent-wise, probably 13. But, you could make an argument that some of these teams in recent years have been more talented top to bottom.
For sure.
Roster-wise, but they
For
didn't
sure.
get the results that those guys did.
Last year, that 15-game stretch, that's the best soccer I've ever seen played
Yeah.
for RSL.
Yeah.
You might want to keep a couple of those guys around. But,
Maybe.
what are you going to do? What are your, as Nikki goes into the Ring of Honor, what's your recollection of kind of when he established himself as who he ultimately became? Because it wasn't right out of the gates.
No. Yeah. I mean, probably the year before they won the Cup, because they had a pretty deep playoff run in 2008.
Was that the Eastern Conference Finals year?
Where
that
they
was
hit the
so
post
weird.
like 6 times.
That was so
And
weird.
I think that was the first year Rio Tinto was open.
It was.
And it was a big deal that they got so far in their first year in their new stadium.
My name's on a beam.
Yep. I think
Shout out John Paul.
That was back when the league was so dumb that teams from different conferences could enter the other team's playoff race, because I think the Red Bulls beat RSL in that final.
And if I remember correctly, in 2009,
yes,
RSL beat Chicago.
Yeah, in penalties. And then Columbus, I think.
How did that work?
Because it's dumb.
It is a dumb. You know what?
It's the dumbest.
It's still a dumb league.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as dumb as it once was. It's still a very, very dumb league.
Are you going to watch Seattle Atletico Madrid?
Well, now that I know that Moose, hey,
Yeah.
Porter, will you find Seattle at Atletico? What channel is it on?
So I've learned this DAZN acronym.
Okay.
Do you know how you pronounce it?
Dozen.
DAZN.
DAZN?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Dunny was on the Miami call.
Okay.
Which was cool, but I think this one is on DAZN, and it's streaming for free online. If it's not on TNT.
We are antiquated in the studio. We cannot stream on the television, so I guess I'll have to watch the replay. But I didn't know Moose was in the 11.
Your guy?
Well, it's John Paul's guy. I mean, really. Like,
the Moose is loose against one of the best teams in the world.
we lost JP as a club when we didn't take care of Moose.
You think so?
Oh, I know so.
Not losing Chicho and going.
No, it was Moose. Moose was the beginning of the decline where John Paul is legitimately no longer an RSL fan. It's very sad.
What about you? Was it Crooks?
No. I stand on my feet, dude. I shout it out. Real. I am here for the lads. They have not lost me. I'm in for life, man. That's what happens.
Are they going to make a push?
No.
Yeah.
They're so boring.
So boring.
It's so uninspiring. Yeah. It's like I watch every Jazz game, even this year. So I watch every RSL game, but it is a task. I find myself doom scrolling during RSL matches. And then if something exciting happens, I'll hear the announcer. I'll just pull up Apple's, like, you know how Apple does the whole moments that you missed?
Yep.
But do you still watch every RSL match?
Oh, I try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Who are the Jazz going to take?
Oh. Well, I really hope VJ Edgecombe falls. Yeah. I think he's really good. Happy anniversary 1984 NBA draft class, which included one Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and one John Stockton. All right, Chris, I'll let you go. You got to go watch the game. That was an entertaining, weird hour. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you soon.
Today was Friday, but it's Thursday.
It's Friday for me. That's why you're here.
Is it?
I'm off tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. All right, the great Chris Comrani will bring you a You Went to Golf PGA Tour update before we catch a break. The world of professional golf. Let me pull this up. It's the Travelers Championship in progress going on right now. The coverage is CBS, ESPN Plus, Golf Channel, and Paramount. It's wild how many different platforms you have at your disposal. I'm not sure where the coverage is today. TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut, about 40, 50 miles as the bird flies from where I grew up. Austin Eckroat and, of course, Scotty Scheffler are your leaders at 8 under par. Wyndham Clark, Rory McIlroy, Keegan Bradley at 6 under. Wow, this is an awesome leaderboard. I'm pulling this up for the first time. Cameron Young stands alone at 5 under par. Then Davis Riley, Nick Taylor, Jason. You know what? They're like 10 dudes, 4 under. You guys can look it up. Brought to you by You Went to Golf. Check out their Callaway right now with 50% bonus trade in towards Elite and Apex Club and 10% off select iron sets. At You Went to Golf. And also, don't miss out on the Bushnell Tour V6 Shift. That is a dangerous radio ad to read. Tour V6 Shift laser rangefinder, now $70 off, and the Tour V6 new $50 off as well. Good friends at You Went to Golf. It's my one-stop shop where I go every time I need something done as far as clubs or balls or whatever in the world of professional golf or golf period. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. We're going to shift a little bit. We'll do Sports Court coming up next, then we'll go live to Indianapolis and check in with Dave McMenamin. Move over to the 5 o'clock hour of the program, and we will say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday, not usually at this time, but we're doing it a little earlier. And we welcome in our good friend Garrett, riding solo today from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Garrett, happy Thursday, buddy. How we doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Spence. How are you?
I'm well. I appreciate the time. So let's get into it. Cam Scadaboo, who University of Utah and BYU fans know as a great running back at Arizona State. He's now with the Giants. He's been accused of causing a career-ending injury to an ex-teammate. Garrett, go ahead and fill us in.
Yeah, he has. I mean, right. I mean, we remember this guy. He was a bit of a wrecking ball.
Yeah, he was.
The way he played running back.
Yep.
And it looks like he's like that after practice as well. I mean, so what happened was, and this was in July of 2023, teams do this from time to time. They use golf carts to transport players to and from practice facilities, to the locker room or to the field or wherever. And so that's what was happening here. And there were a couple of players sitting on the back of this golf cart. One of those is a Mateos Catagaris. He was a walk-on offensive lineman. And apparently they're driving along, and Cam Scadaboo runs up and jumps on the back and is kind of jumping up and down and bouncing this golf cart. And the back seat basically breaks off of the golf cart, and they fall. And this offensive lineman, Catagaris, he was injured in the accident. It doesn't look like he's really played since then. He had some. The injuries are not totally clear to me what it was. I think he's entered the transfer portal in 2023. I don't know that he's joined another team. And so what happened is initially he brought this lawsuit, it looks like, against Arizona State. And throughout the process of a case, we go through what's called discovery, and you learn things. And one of those was about, of course, Cam Scadaboo's actions in causing this, but also that about the day before the incident, I guess Arizona State, the team or coach or whoever had warned the players and said, look, only 2 players on the back of the golf cart. It's got a 600-pound weight limit. And if you've got a couple offensive linemen back there, you're maxing out the weight pretty quickly. So it looks like, what's happened is, I think because of some of these facts that have come out and Arizona State potentially having a good defense here, that they warned about this. Cam Scadaboo has been brought in as a defendant in the case. He's been named. He's currently preparing for the draft, I think. But there you go. I guess he was. That it's kind of a little bit of an older story. But so that's the latest on that one.
All right, another one that we've talked about, it's the Dearica Hamby lawsuit. I believe, so the Vegas Aces on Monday answered the lawsuit. Dearica Hamby, for our listeners, believed that she was traded after she became pregnant. We have covered this, Garrett, but what's the latest?
We have, but there's been a few updates on this. Initially, what she did is she brought this is a discrimination and a retaliation case, and she brought her claims against the WNBA was one of the defendants, and also the Vegas Aces. And again, the basis of her allegation is that with her second pregnancy and the announcement of that she started to be treated differently by the team, and ultimately was traded to the LA Sparks. And so, she's got a lot on this. This case has been ongoing for quite a while, but what happened recently is a judge did decide to dismiss the WNBA. And really, apparently the evidence that's coming out is the WNBA really didn't have enough involvement in this discrimination, and that her case really needs to be handled directly with the remaining defendant, which is the Aces. So her case is going to go on. I mean, there's been a dismissal of one of the defendants, but she can still pursue the case against the Aces.
All right, so last week, proposed settlement between Shaq and investors of a failed cryptocurrency, the FTX. Looks like there's been a settlement here. So this is another one that we kind of covered when it first came out, but what's the latest, Garrett?
Yeah, the latest is Shaq's going to pay $1.8 million to settle this case. Again, the background is he was a spokesperson like several other athletes, Tom Brady. There were others, back during a time that was all crypto ads is all we were seeing, in FTX. And so Shaq was a spokesperson for this. And so the basic claim is that they've promoted this fraudulent, faulty product, right, where people lost a lot of money. And of course, the defense from Shaq's camp has been, well, wait a minute, he's just a spokesman. Shaq's not an expert on crypto markets and trading, and he's just a spokesperson, and you should know that. You don't need to rely on him as a spokesperson about the product itself. But there is a settlement, and I think the message now is a little learning experience probably for future endorsements. It's one thing to endorse a pair of shoes or something, or some golf clubs, but it's another to endorse a financial services product or investment that's risky, and you could lose a lot of money. And so I think we may see in the future athletes shy away from these sorts of endorsements. I would think they've got plenty of other opportunities to endorse products and maybe stay away from some of these risky ones where apparently we've got some precedent, right, to have them have some accountability in this.
All right, Garrett, final one for today, and I saw this headline and I was surprised. Zakai Ziegler has had his fifth-year bid blocked by the NCAA. He's a Tennessee basketball player. He's a very good player. So help me understand why this is different than some of the other situations that granted some of the other football and basketball players that grad year that Zakai will not get.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself, Spence. Again, we've covered several other athletes. The Vanderbilt quarterback is one particular, where it's this idea that, you've got 5 years to play for, and he's looking for a fifth year. And some of the basis of that was, well, hey, I've got an opportunity here to make some additional money through NIL deals. And the judge, saw this differently. We've got a split now, and I don't know. Some of the difference here is that we've got a House settlement that's in place, and some of the rules surrounding eligibility are starting maybe to get solidified a little bit. Where before, what they've been seeking is a preliminary injunction, right? Which isn't the end of the case, but just the ability to say, hey, can we put this on hold while this is all getting decided and give me a chance to play another year? Because if I can't play another year, I'm going to be prejudiced and I'm going to lose out on all this money. And the judge, just just seeing it differently on this one. And so, again, this is an issue that's not settled at all, not by a long shot. And so we're seeing kind of split decisions come down, and something we'll follow closely because I think at some point this has got to get. We've got to have some uniformity on these rules.
All right, Garrett, before I set you loose, for any listeners who have legal questions, how do they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy? Yeah,
thanks, Spence. We'd love to talk to any listeners out there on your legal questions, especially the area of personal injury, which is what we do. You can reach us at 801-264-6677 or go to our website, handylawutah.com.
Garrett, thanks for the time, buddy. Have a great weekend. As always, go Utes.
Go Utes. Thanks, man.
All right. Garrett from the law firm of Handy and Handy. HandyLawUtah.com is where you find them. All right. So we will head live to Indianapolis prior to tonight's Game 6 of the NBA Finals, and we'll check in with Dave McMenamin. We are still tracking the status of Tyrese Halliburton and whether or not he will go tonight. Earlier today, Shams Charania reported that the Indiana Pacers were going to take the court for a walkthrough prior to tip, which was 3 o'clock Mountain Time, which was 1 hour and 17 minutes ago. And then during that walkthrough, they will then determine the status of Tyrese for the game tonight. According to Shams, it will be up to the training staff, not Tyrese Halliburton himself. Oklahoma City remains a 5.5-point favorite, so if there is some information, Vegas has not received it yet. Tyrese Halliburton is on television right now, walking into the locker room after working out to see if he can go with that lower leg injury. 5.5-point line as it pertains to Oklahoma City being the favorite to win the game tonight. And, of course, if OKC wins, they will be crowned the champions of pro basketball in the NBA. It is Gainsbridge Fieldhouse, and, of course, that building will be rocking. Oklahoma City looking to really culminate what has been a historic season. The line just moved. All right. Oklahoma City is now a 6.5-point favorite. The line just moved as I was talking. What does that indicate? Well, it would not be natural to assume it indicates Tyrese Halliburton is not going to play tonight. And we were discussing this earlier. It's a tough dynamic. Any high-level basketball player that has a chance to play professionally dreams of this stage, dreams of the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, after Game 5 himself, said he's been dreaming about playing in the NBA Finals since he was a kid. And we all do it. We all did it, right? Like you're in your backyard, you're 3-2-1, take the jump shot, you win the NBA championship. And I get it through the prism of Tyrese Halliburton wanting to fulfill this dream. But if you are injured and you would adversely affect your team, I think you got to sit. That sounds pretty simplistic to me. But at the same time, you have to wonder whether or not Halliburton has any say in this. According to the reports, it will be determined by the training staff. And that can get a little sticky. I mean, you guys remember Donovan Mitchell, right? Donovan was held out of a playoff series Game 1. I think it was against the Grizzlies, if I remember correctly. Jazz lost Game 1. And then Donovan and his team, I believe he had a personal trainer that Dwayne Wade introduced him to from Miami. Eventually, it led to the ousting of Mike Elliott, one of the most respected trainers in the landscape of professional basketball. Donovan was mad that he was told he couldn't play. Jazz lose. He pulls the power play to play in Game 2. And when it comes to the training staff making the decision without the voice of the player, it's just always a little dicey. So not sure who ultimately will determine this. If the Pacers, they don't have Halliburton, interesting to consider. We had Tony Jones on yesterday, and I'm not sure I entirely agree with TJ on this. So we talked about what Indiana does if Tyrese can't go, right? Fact of the matter is he is the head of the snake for this team. He is their franchise cornerstone. He's different than SGA. I hate the comparisons. I see him every day, every single day on a game day for the NBA Finals. I see talking heads, media members, people previewing the game, kind of comparing him to SGA. They're just completely different players. He's more Steve Nash than he is Kobe Bryant. He's more Steve Nash than he is Michael Jordan. He's more Steve Nash than he is LeBron. He's not a big wing that can go get you 40. He has before. Indiana's 9-0 when Tyrese has 11 or more assists in a game. They're 8-0 when he has 20 or more points, too. So they do rely on him to score, and he can score. About 18, 19 a game, 8, 9 assists a game, 4 or 5 boards. The issue is, you know what OKC will do if Tyrese is given the green light and he's able to go? They will just simply put him in every single action possible. Pick and roll, ball screens. They'll try to bump him off of cuts. They'll try to hit him off of screens. And they'll try to make sure that he is as tired as possible defensively to mitigate what he can do on the offensive end, because he's very good on that side of the ball. And he's not a horrible defender. He's just not near the defender that the defenders that Indiana has around him. Andrew Nembhard has really shown, in my opinion, he's shined is how I should put that, during this postseason. I mean, Shea's going to get his. As Rick Carlisle said after Game 2, when Shea had 34, he said, look, you can mark 34 down for Shea when you get off the plane. But Nembhard is up in him all game long. And just like he's saying, like, I am here all night. I will be here all night. Interesting backstory. Andrew Nembhard and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander grew up playing against each other in Canada, and they currently are teammates on the Canadian national team. So when it comes to Shea, when it comes to Jalen, when it comes to all of the weapons the Thunder have, Nembhard is going to take the Shea assignment. Neesmith will try to guard Jalen. Siakam will have turns on him as well. So Rick Carlisle will do whatever he can to hide Halliburton if Tyrese plays tonight. But Mark Dagnall will do whatever he can to put him in every single action possible. And therefore try to render him useless offensively, maybe tire him out, and then maybe Rick has to pull him. But if Tyrese doesn't play, I believe they will start TJ McConnell. Tony yesterday said that that's not where his head is at. He thinks they actually slide Nembhard over to the point guard position, bring in either Ben Shepherd or Benedict Mathurin, because they rely on TJ to run that second unit off the bench. Those Pacer fans love themselves some TJ McConnell. And in Game 5, TJ was like the one Pacer that kept them in it in that third quarter run, so much so that Rick actually sat Tyrese for a while. This has to be a big Siakam night, has to be a big Pascal Siakam night. Feels like they need a little bit more from Miles Turner than they've received. Miles Turner's in a contract year. He's the longest tenured Indiana Pacer. lottery pick a number of years ago. I think he was number 11. And, Miles Turner in this series, it's interesting because typically he, oftentimes will struggle with bigger bodied bigs, but Oklahoma City with Chet and Hartenstein, Hartenstein is their best screen setter, and Miles Turner does have some issues in that direction, but Chet is not a big bodied kid. He's the exact opposite of it. And Miles Turner's at his best in pick and pop. I mean, he's a big that can shoot the three. That's kind of always been his deal. So if Tyrese doesn't go, I think they start TJ. I don't know. I mean, maybe they do start Benedict Mathurin, who started, I think, like 50 games for them. If I remember correctly, Mathurin was in the starting lineup for a while. He got hurt. He had some injury issues. And when he got healthy, it really changed the scope of who they are because he's a good player. I mean, Pac-12 Player of the Year at the University of Arizona back in the day. Let's see. Benedict Mathurin started 49 games for them. Aaron Nesmith, also, when he got healthy, had changed them 37 games. TJ only started once. So we'll see. I mean, Ben Shepherd is an option. I would imagine they bring him off the bench as well. But no news yet as to the availability of Tyrese Halliburton and what that's going to look like for the Indiana Pacers tonight as they attempt to stave off elimination. It's staving season in the NBA, and the Oklahoma City Thunder will try to lift Larry O'Brien's trophy on the road. We'll talk more about this as we go live to Indianapolis coming up to bring in Dave McMenamin. Dave covers the Lakers as well, so we'll talk about that transaction that became official yesterday. But before we catch a break, we welcome in Ryan from the Dish Professionals. Bottom line, dial 801-424-DISH and just save a bunch of money on a bunch of different things. What's going on, Ryan?
Spence, thanks so much as always. Great opportunities right now with internet and TV, and super excited about our options with internet. Never been better. In fact, I don't think there's a company out there that you can call that can line up as many internet options as we have, all in one place, one phone number. Guys, internet as low as $20 a month on up. If you're unhappy for internet service, you're not getting the reliability, or the bill just keeps going up on you, and we see that all the time. Call us up. Let's see what we can hook you up with. There's lots of different providers. I've got this 5G product at my house. I love it. I've been using it for 2.5 years now. 500 meg speeds. It's ripping fast. The true test is the wife doesn't complain, and you're good to go. And it's cheap, $50 a month. Call us up. Take advantage of the deals there. Dish has got the most incredible offer they've ever laid out, where you get credits for the next 2 years, prices guaranteed not to change, and we're going to set you up with 3 months free of movies and 3 months free of everything. Actually, we're going to set you up so you get all the programming free for 3 months. Guys, this is a grundle of money that you can save if you're trapped in that cable or DirecTV or streaming bundle bill that you got put together. Call us up, lower your bill, save money, get the biggest, fastest DVR out there. Let us help you with internet also, and we'll throw in dinner at JCW's on top of everything. Remember, if you call us, you get the very best price guaranteed, and next day installation, 424-DISH. Call before this promotion goes away, 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Professionals. We'll go live to Indianapolis coming up next to catch up with Dave McMenamin. Then we'll move into the 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Thursday. We'll say goodnight at 6, send you coverage of ESPN's radio coverage of tonight's Game 6 of the NBA Finals between the Pacers and the Thunder. So don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. About 2 hours away-ish from tip, as the Pacers will try to stave off elimination tonight, and the Oklahoma City Thunder will try to win the NBA championship. Live to Indianapolis we go. I believe so. That's where we find our guy Dave McMiniman on a Thursday. Dave, you are live on site, yes?
I'm in LA. I fly to OKC. I fly to OKC on Saturday. Should Indianapolis take care of business tonight?
Oh, wow!
There's a little bit of a story going on out in LA that I've been working on. So it's not that I'm just sitting around here twiddling my thumbs.
Okay, well, the natural first question is, how excited were you that story broke? So therefore, you did not have to make the trip to Indiana.
There you go. Good positioning there. I'm sure we'll talk about the sale, but I wish I was in Indiana tonight, to be honest, because being there for 3 and 4, it was an incredible atmosphere, and seeing some of the quotes coming out from guys like Miles Turner and Andrew Nembhard, they sound like a confident group that aren't. Sometimes a team gets to this point. They're limping towards the finish line. They suffer an injury to one of their stars, and it's like, well, let's pack it up. It doesn't seem like that's their mentality. Now, they could just very well be outclassed by the Thunder as they had the last 2 games. Brian Windhorst pointed out today that the Thunder scored 52 points off of the Pacers' turnovers the last 2 games. Like, that will be the recipe for disaster if it goes that way tonight. But I'm kind of holding out hope that we get a really competitive game and a chance for Game 7 on Sunday.
How jealous was your wife when she found out that you were staying home?
She also, man, she loves being there. Loves mixing it up.
Dave, come on, man. You're talking to me. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
I know.
Sorry. Yeah.
Are you sending her pictures? Are you sending her pictures of like the Santa Monica Pier and the beach? Are you doing that?
I'm more like sending her pictures of like the laundry that I've done and the mail that I've opened.
That a guy.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. If there was a second iteration, a modern day iteration of Winning Time, who plays Dave McMiniman?
Okay, this is a good one. I've been told before I have a bit of I can have a squinty look, and when I'm in shape, which is not right now, but when I am in shape, I'm a little lanky. So I've been compared to Ed Norton before, and Ed Norton's a tremendous actor. So I'll go with Ed Norton. I like Ed Norton. My producer has chimed in, and he's offering Charlie Day because you're kind of a funny guy. How does that land? Sure, I'll take it.
Okay.
Always sunny connection. Sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Philadelphia time.
Well, it was an awesome series. I was bummed when HBO canceled it, but it did bring a lot of interesting perspective based off of Perlman's book on the path that Dr. Jerry Buss and, of course, his family have taken that has now ended in a, it's incorrect to say they sold it for $10 billion. I know it's a little bit more nuanced and complex than that. And let me say, you and Timmy, Good Time Bond Temps, great piece today. It was awesome. I've used it. Great job. Take us through the process. What's this been like for the Buss family, dating all the way back to when Dr. Buss really risked it all? And what do you think it means to them to land on this day today? And, of course, what does it mean for the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, obviously a tremendous series of events when Dr. Buss was able to acquire the team from Jack King Cook back in the 70s and kind of put all of his fortune on the line that he developed in real estate in order to make it happen. And for $67 million, now we're fast forward and to this moment of a $10 billion valuation. That's just a tremendous American success story in itself. And the way the trust was set up was the 6 siblings. You basically weren't getting. Now, of course, the team. Let me start here. The team was operating at a profit, so the 6 siblings were able to live a comfortable lifestyle based on the revenue generated from the Lakers on a year-to-year basis. But comfortable, is a very varying descriptor word, and there's levels of comfort where you're vacationing at a Marriott, and there's a level of comfort where you're vacationing in the Maldives on a private island. And by going with a sale like this, it's Maldives all the time. Each of the siblings will clear somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million, which is just a tremendous, tremendous number. And the way the trust is set up, none of the siblings would get paid out until the team was sold. So it's not like, hey, I want to sell my part to the rest of the siblings, give me my money, and I'll be on my merry way. It couldn't work that way. And with several of the siblings getting up there in age, and this tremendous opportunity from a guy, Mark Walter, who, became someone who Jeannie Buss trusted through the relationship with Magic Johnson, and seeing the way that he's taken care of kind of a civic point of pride organization, the LA Dodgers. They decided it was the time to do it. So the family did a vote yesterday, a majority vote between the siblings, and here we go.
Is Jim going to be included here? Are they really going to give Jim his $1 billion?
Jim will be getting his $1 billion. Now, what he does with it, we're all waiting with bated breath. But,
I'm just kidding.
Jim, the funny thing about Jim, I was covering the Lakers when he had an influential role in the front office, and I've always liked Jim. He thinks a little bit outside the box, and he's not cut from the cloth of corporate America, I don't think, but he cares about the team. And obviously it was back in 2017 when him and Johnny Buss sued their sister Jeannie to try to wrestle control from away from her for the organization. Like, that was pretty ugly. But in recent years, that bridge has been repaired, and obviously Jeannie is the aunt to his kids, and I think that had something to do with it. And the family did a Hulu documentary a couple years ago, and I think that was kind of like, hey, let's put this all out in the open and let's move forward. And Jim's been around a little bit more since that documentary came out. So, I think that was another sign that this could happen, because I think there was still rancor between the siblings. I don't think we would have come to this point that we're at now.
So you and Tim did a really good job today, and I'm not sure how many sports fans or basketball fans really know, because you hear the Lakers, you hear Tinseltown, you hear Los Angeles, and you just assume that they have the same bankroll that like the Knicks do with Jimmy Dolan. But that isn't the case, Dave, is it? It really has not been how this organization has been run. So shed some light on that, kind of a glorified mom and pop shop, and what do you think this acquisition will mean for the way they run the business moving forward?
Yeah, so they spent on salary, and they spent on luxury tax if the salaries required that. In the Jeannie Buss era since 2013, when she became the governor, they spent more than $1.5 billion, the eighth most out of any team in the league in that time. And they have the second most amount of championships in that time. Only franchise with more since 2013 is the Warriors with 4, and then whoever wins tonight's finals or Sunday's finals game will be the 9th team to win 1. So they've been competitive. Where they haven't spent as much is on their scouting department, on their coaches, on their analytics department, and those things. When you're in a hyper-competitive space like the NBA is, and it's being filled in that same amount of time by billionaires, you can be looked at as, behind the times when it came to the NBA. And this deal, and Mark Walter, who is involved with the Guggenheim Group, they manage. They'll have those extra resources to spend on all the stuff that isn't controlled by the salary cap that the Lakers, under Jeannie Buss chose not to spend on, because, again, basically, like, they technically probably could have afforded some of that stuff more, but then what's left for, the Buss siblings to live on? Like, basically all 6 of the siblings were living off of the Lakers' wealth.
So What have you learned about Mark Walter, and what sort of owner? Excuse me. Obviously, he tried to buy the Clips. That went to Ballmer. He owns the Dodgers. Dodgers payroll is far more than any other team in Major League Baseball. What sort of majority owner will he be? I know Genie's still going to be the governor, but what have you learned about Mark, and what sort of owner do you think he's going to be?
So far, I've spoken to several people who know him from the Dodgers. I haven't spoken to him directly. I look forward to that chance, but he has been, for the most part, hands off. He is very much involved when it comes to finding the right people that he wants to put in place for the job. But once he's been through that process, it's not like Jerry Jones coming down from above and meddling with the decision makers. He wants to trust those people and empower those people. Of course, there'll be sign-offs on certain things, but the general thought is that he recognizes that if you bring more smart voices in a room, it's better versus feeling like, be intimidated perhaps, or, maybe I'm not going to be as influential if I bring in someone with real bona fides. And that's similar to the model that the Clippers have followed by using Steve Ballmer's wealth for building a robust front office, bringing in someone like Jerry West, who's, considered one of the most shrewd general managers in the history of the sport, prior to him passing away. That is what he's kind of done with the Dodgers, and go out, identify a young kind of quant in Andrew Friedman, who had a ton of respect around the sport, but didn't have the resources in Tampa Bay. And it's like, use those same instincts for us, and you'll have my wallet to do so. And so certainly I think the next question a lot of us are asking is, I don't think any in the short term do we expect any major changes to the decision makers in terms of Jeannie Buss. We already have reporting on that. And Rob Pelinka, we've reported on his contract extension that he signed shortly after the Luka Doncic trade. But in the mid to long term, who are those extra voices that are going to be involved in this team for the Lakers? Because we anticipate there will be.
I believe it was 1983, maybe 84, when Larry Miller secured a $3 million loan from a bank here in Utah to purchase half of the Jazz, and later had to secure another $3 million by leveraging his business. At the time was not big, it was growing, to buy the remaining shares of the Jazz, $6-7 million in 84. To wrap your head around a $10 billion valuation for a pro basketball team, Dave, is something else. I'll tell you what. Help me and our listeners understand exactly why the business of basketball is so good right now.
I mean, listen, some of it is in a marketplace like Los Angeles in particular. It is a really strong brand, and it'll allow you to sell all sorts of marketing opportunities, brand partnerships, et cetera, with businesses in the LA area. And when you have those chances, then, you are also then building out luxury suites, et cetera, that you are making sure they're filled by these corporations that you have these business relationships with. Beyond that, it's an international brand. I mean, the Lakers aren't just one of the biggest brands in North America, but literally in the world. And if you have the right type of people that have the right type of connections overseas and in different markets, you can turn that brand name into business opportunities. And what have the Dodgers been doing? I mean, with Shohei Ohtani, they have a whole commerce. They have an whole industry based on relationships with Japanese corporations that they've been able to build out since getting him from the Anaheim Angels. And so, I'm not saying like Japan will necessarily be the destination with the Lakers product. I'm sure they'll try to pair up some business opportunities there. But, Mark Walter has a soccer team in England. Mark Walter also has business interests in the LA Sparks. Like, he will try to basically the way your cable is bundled, he's going to bundle his sports interests in a way that he can do scaled deals that are unlike many other owners can offer to major brands that choose to work with him.
Are you the brains behind Magic Johnson's tweets?
I was shocked. Someone at ESPN, when he was in doing a first take last week, I need to find this out and commend whoever the producer was, got him to read some of his dry tweets from the past and try to explain what the heck was going on through his mind when he had those tweets sent out. So I applaud whoever, got Magic to trust them enough to go through that process.
So it is really him. That's really Magic Johnson tweeting out those tweets.
There was a segment that ESPN Social shared that he went through a couple tweets that read like a highlights magazine, and he claimed ownership of them. So,
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. Moving on here, Dave. Any insight? There are several. And look, the business now, certainly on social, is really weird. I feel like I'm aggregated every day. I can't imagine what somebody with a platform like you feels like. So there's a lot of aggregation. There are a lot of rumors, but there continues to be. So there are two rumors that have surfaced over the past 24 hours regarding conversations between the Jazz and the Lakers. One is the Walker Kessler scenario that we've talked about. The other is like a John Collins, Rui Hachimura type situation. I don't know how much you've seen of either of these, but we'll end with the finals. But before we get there, any insight on Jazz-Lakers trade talks?
Right. I mean, obviously, we've talked about Kessler several times on your program, and I saw that some of our conversation last week was aggregated, and everything we discussed is what it is. Like there remains interest on the Lakers' end, and we presented the assets they could present in a deal, and that remains the case. Unless the Lakers were to do another trade prior to expressing interest again to the Jazz and having different assets to show at that point, or obviously a 3-team deal or something like that. But just 1-to-1, that remains the same. I saw, I believe it was Andy Larson of the Salt Lake Tribune who mentioned some interest the Lakers have in John Collins. I believe he mentioned it on a podcast. I haven't listened to the podcast. I saw an aggregation of what he supposedly said and the package that the Lakers would potentially deal with Rui and Max Kleber and multiple first rounders. To me, sounds like an extreme overpay for a guy. I think Collins is on an expiring contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yep, correct.
Yeah. So it didn't really pass the smell test to me. I don't have reporting on the Lakers talking to the Jazz about Collins. Of course, I'm not saying or refuting what Andy's heard. I haven't heard it personally. I would say though, if what I saw in terms of what the trade package would be was accurate, because again, I didn't listen to his podcast. So I'm not sure exactly what I saw was accurate, but if that is accurate, I'd have a hard time seeing the Lakers offering anywhere close to Collins at this stage where his career's at right now. There's still a lot of Rui Hachimura fans in this organization, like big time. And again, we talk about the Japanese business interests. Rui Hachimura can be something that Mark Walters' team can tap into in Japan. I'm not so sure John Collins provides that much more of a basketball advantage that you would turn your back on seeing what you can do with that Rui Hachimura connection.
Okay, good point, but watch your mouth. John Collins was born in Ogden, Utah. Have you ever been to Ogden, Utah? It's quite pleasant, Dave.
Okay, sure.
It's not. All right, breaking news. Sham Charania, who I believe you work with, Tyrese Halliburton will play tonight in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Dave, your instant reaction.
Yeah, that's where this thing has been trending. And obviously after Game 5, when the adrenaline's still pumping and he says he's going to play, you do have to raise an eyebrow a little bit. But we've had folks on our air report about it. I've texted with some folks connected to Indiana who were basically presenting the scenario of we're going to trust him and not take away this opportunity from him for sure. But we have to be ready and have a contingency plan if he just doesn't look right. Not only to protect him, but also to protect this opportunity in front of us, because this is a winner, go home, your season's over scenario. And as great as Tyrese Halliburton is, and he's tremendous, he has moxie, he has a sense of the moment, he's a great floor general, brings a great attitude, all those things. They are not built, the Pacers, needing 30 and 15 from Tyrese Halliburton to win, even to beat a team as good as Oklahoma City Thunder are. I mean, I think Halliburton had like 14, 16 points in game one. Obviously, he hit the biggest shot of the night, but it wasn't like he was dominant leading to the point where they got that win. And so, of course, we all watched game 5 and we saw the great third quarter that TJ McConnell had. He'll be part of the mix. I'm looking at Mathurin and Nembhard as really the swing players for Indy tonight, because they have the skill, they have the physicality, they have the ability to play with athleticism and match with the those guys on the Thunder end of things. We talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. And I don't think they're intimidated whatsoever. They just got to play better. Nembhard didn't shoot it well at all. Mathurin missed those free throws at the end of game 4, and maybe the Pacers are up 3-1 at that point. Like, I look at those guys, and then obviously Pascal Siakam. He had a really strong game 5. He can be that guy. He's won a championship before. If those guys, bring their A game, I think they could make up or mask a, C performance out of Tyrese Halliburton and extend the series.
So you referenced a couple of the options. I was debating earlier if Tyrese didn't play. TJ only started one game this year, and I feel like Rick wants him to run that second unit. And if we're honest, oftentimes, like, backup players in the NBA, it's kind of like the backup quarterback in football, always the most popular player in the stadium. If the starter isn't going well, you just want to insert the backup. But the fact of the matter is, oftentimes TJ is playing better against backups. It's not entirely true. In the case that Tyrese gives it a go, because Dave, what Mark Dagnall's going to do. Like, Tyrese is going to be in every single action, and Lou Dort is going to be up in his jersey from jump. If after 2-3 minutes, it's pretty clear to Rick Carlisle that Tyrese doesn't have it, what does it look like? Is it straight Tyrese for TJ? Is it slide Nembhard to point, put in Benedict Mathurin, who started, I think, 49 games for them? What do you think that contingency for the Pacers actually looks like?
Nembhard said at their player availability that he has, been told that he's going to be handling the ball more. So if we take him at his word, we should see more of that. TJ, as you mentioned, he's tremendous, and I think he is one of the better role players in the entire NBA. But some of that mix is literally maximizing every iota of energy in his body any given moment he's on the court, and given his physical size and the guys he's matching up against, you hit a ceiling on that, and you're asking a lot to get more than like 25 minutes of that level from TJ McConnell, and that's probably even asking too much. And so I think you'd rather put him in an environment that you already know is successful versus then perhaps, okay, all of a sudden now he's going to be guarded by Lou Dort and rendered ineffective there. And you're like, so I took one advantage I had here to try to stabilize something over here, and now I lost both of them. Like, I don't think that's really the solution there. And, I think whomever is on the court, they need to push the ball and get into their actions quicker, because what we saw in game 4, and credit to Indiana, it was ugly early and they did make that run in the second half, but they were stagnant getting into their offense. So they're getting pushed all the way out to the timeline almost, where like a screen to try to get downhill. Like it's not effective basketball playing that way. And then when you do get downhill, that's when the Thunder are so good at collapsing already. And if they have more space to collapse versus like they had to make that quick trigger decision where you're right at the hoop versus you're going to shoot or dump it off, they're going to have success against you. And so, they got to push the pace, got to take care of the basketball, and they got to recognize that if Tyree doesn't have it, all the other guys just got to give, a little bit better than they had. I mean, listen, it was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter the other night. OKC was great from that point on, but it was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. Indy should have a shot tonight.
Do you have a lean? Do you feel like it ends tonight, or do you feel like the Pacers extend it to 7?
I was texting with Timmy Goodtimes
nice.
Today, and I went 55-45 OKC. He said his instinct 65-35 OKC. But
okay.
I mean, both of us giving a legitimate shot to the Pacers. Like it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion that this thing's over tonight.
All right, Dave, before I say you loose, if Oklahoma City gets it done, it will culminate what has been a historic season in many different ways. And you and I have talked about this. Maybe we just should have been more reductive and simplistic. Like, yeah, they're awesome. They're probably going to win it. Maybe Boston would have had something to say if Tatum stayed healthy. But what is your opinion on just how long this team can play at this level? They will have some extensions on the table. Shea, as a result of his MVP and first team All-NBA, is due for Supermax. They have not extended Chet, which they'll do. And obviously Jalen just went for a 40 piece in the NBA Finals. He's going to get paid as well. So if we assume they lock those 3 in, which of course they will, I believe that's just going to be like the core. And then you like an Alex Caruso. You like an Isaiah Hartenstein. You like a Lou Dort. Certainly I'm not diminishing those other players. But when you look at Bobby Marks' future NBA draft rankings, Oklahoma City is number 1. They have 13 future first-round picks. They have all 7 of their own. Everybody owes them something. So it feels like Sam Presti, who just is the best in the business at what he does, has plenty of options at his disposal to add talent around those 3 to kind of keep this thing ticking. But it is a new world in the NBA. It is a new CBA. How long do you think Oklahoma City can make this thing last?
I mean, really, it comes down to, I think, your belief in just how great Shea is. And he's made me a believer. And so I think, like, you're looking at least a 5-year window where they should be if not the favorite, in the contender favorites conversation. Because everything I see from Shea is that, like, he is singularly focused. Basketball is his complete consumption of his life. And something like the idea of a teammate getting too much shine or living in a city like Oklahoma City compared to some of the other NBA locales, I don't think is going to change how he views the game of basketball and views his role with this team. And so you have that established. I think even if something unforeseen or unfortunate was to happen, like, Chet Holmgren's already been through 2 major injuries in his career, and with a body build like that, you'd have to think that it's possible that he would have other injuries pop up. Let's say something like that does happen and he has a major injury setback. Because of all that draft capital they have moving forward, they're able to pivot. They're able to either use the draft picks themselves to figure out, kind of the new talent that's homegrown that can help them through a lean time when a guy is injured or a guy's not producing, or you just go plop it out and trade for any of the guys on the market, even if it's just for a year, because it's an embarrassment of riches that they have. So yeah, I think we'll be spending a lot of time in the playoffs in Oklahoma City over the next 5 years. And I don't really go beyond 5 years because, like, the NBA is, the stuff's always unpredictable, but I'll give it a solid 5-year window moving forward.
All right, fair enough. I'll set you loose so you can text your wife a picture of your Nobu while she's eating her hot dog at halftime, Dave. Thanks for the time, man. Enjoy the game.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, the great Dave McMenamin, NBA Finals, 90 minutes away, Game 6. Tyrese Halliburton will play. We will catch a break. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program. We'll do a little more NBA playoffs, then some NFL with Ben Solak. We'll say goodnight at 6 on a Thursday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get it. Drive at 5 time Thursday afternoon style. It's about 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. It's not just hot today, it's historically hot today. 103 degrees was the peak temp here in Salt Lake City, which is a record, according to our guy Chase Thomason from KUTV. So it is a scorching hot Utah summer day outside, and as it is every day, it's good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic. Porter Larson producing the show today after a 3-hour shift. Hosting our midday program today with our guy James Peterson, Sean O'Connell on the road, traveling, doing some PFL. So Porter and James held it down, of course, producing the show today as well. The NBA Finals could end tonight. Game 6, Oklahoma City leads the series 3-2. Indiana Pacers are at home, where they've been very good during the postseason. Oklahoma City is a 6.5-point favorite to win the game tonight. And some breaking news a little bit earlier, just about 10 minutes ago, Tyrese Halliburton will play. What does that look like? Not exactly sure. Of course, he was very limited during Game 5, where he went 0 for 6 from the floor, scored 4 points, but all 4 of those points were free throws. He did not make a shot. But we talked about this, and this is always a sticky thing, and we're going to do some football in the 5 o'clock hour today. We're going to bring in Ben Solak from ESPN to do some offseason NFL. I want to get with Ben to talk about a lot of our local players playing in the NFL, some offseason storylines. We'll touch on some former Pac-12 quarterbacks, and ultimately tonight's NBA Finals game will be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. So when you look at the Tyrese Halliburton dynamic, as we've discussed, after Game 5, Tyrese was asked whether or not that lower leg injury was limiting him. He didn't necessarily come out and say yes, but he had 5 drives to the basket, according to the data for the game, in all of Game 5, which was the lowest that he has had all year long, regular season and postseason included. It's just a tricky thing. It's hard. So Shams Charania reported earlier that this was going to be left up to the medical staff, and the determination about whether or not Tyrese was going to play would be made about 5 o'clock Eastern time, about 3 o'clock our time out here in the Mountain Time Zone, after a light workout and a walkthrough where the medical staff was going to analyze his movement and check his pain tolerance, and then determine moving forward whether or not it was smart to actually let him go. We discussed this earlier with our guy Chris Kamrani. A loose hour, to say the least, with CK Live in studio today, where lower leg injuries, of course, a calf strain like this is the very same injury Kevin Durant had in the NBA Finals when he was playing with the Golden State Warriors. And they played against the Toronto Raptors, who, of course, won that series. And one of the reasons they won the series is Kevin Durant tore up his Achilles. But it was a calf strain that Golden State was debating as to whether or not it was smart to let him go. And if you're Indiana, you got to weigh that, because if you leave it up to the player, unless the player's name is Kawhi Leonard, that was cheap. If you leave it up to the player, they're going to do everything they possibly can to play in the NBA Finals. This is a lifelong dream. Tyrese Halliburton talked about this after Game 5. If you played basketball at all and you had any premonition of being good at it, and you thought maybe at some point you'd play in the NBA, chances are you had these delusions of grandeur that at some point maybe you could do this. And this is the biggest stage in a sport where a bunch of different players historically have made it to one NBA Finals and never made it back. So if you leave it up to Tyrese, he's playing. Now, if you leave it up to the training staff, the interesting dynamic you run into, if it comes back to bite you, if Tyrese essentially exacerbates this injury tonight, or heaven forbid, knock on wood, it turns into something a little bit more devastating, the egg is on your face. And you're the organization that has to answer questions about your training staff allowing your star player to play if it doesn't work out. I would imagine pretty quickly we will have an idea as to whether or not Tyrese Halliburton is even close to, I'll call it 60 or 70%. That's about the limit I would put, or I should say the number I would put, the percentage I would put on the way he looked during Game 5. And if you're Rick Carlisle, you have a very interesting decision to make, because this is do or die. And so what do? Do you pull your star player if he doesn't look right? Because I can promise you what Mark Dagnall and Oklahoma City are going to do is be very intentional and probably even slow play it a little bit to make sure that Tyrese Halliburton is in every action possible defensively, and therefore wear him out so he's not the same player on the offensive end, where when he's going, he is a savant. He's a great lead guard. He's not a high-scoring wing that's going to go get you 35 or 40. That's never really been his game. I don't love the comps between Tyrese and SGA. SGA is a pure scorer. Yeah, he's a lead guard. He's the primary ball handler. But Oklahoma City's offense is catered to getting Shea off, to get him going. A lot of 1-4 flat, a lot of high ball screens where Shea is the decision maker, and Shea is very smart. So it's not just his individual scoring prowess. It's also his ability to get his teammates involved if you kind of blitz and, run him off ball screens or make sure that you're blitzing every screen and every action he's in to get the ball out of his hands. Oklahoma City certainly has a number 2 in Jalen that has evolved to the point where our guy had 40 points in an NBA Finals game, which changes your life. You're that guy that had 40 points in an NBA Finals game, that changes your life. So the two players are different. The two offensive attacks are different. Oklahoma City can really go off a lot of isolation and 1-4 flat with either Jalen or Shea. And then you hope that Dort knocks down some shots. You hope that Alex Caruso knocks down some shots. You hope that some of the other players are able to just knock down good looks that you can get them based off of all the attention that both Shea and Jalen mandate. Can Chet knock down some threes? Can Lou Dort knock down some threes? Can you get a couple from Aaron Wiggins or Cason Wallace, right? And Wiggins and Wallace have both been really, really good. Indiana, and Rick Carlisle's talked about this, they need and have to have all hands on deck. It's not a scenario where it's 1-4 flat isolation for Tyrese, and you go get yours. And if they hedge and blitz and they try to stop you from scoring individually, then you move it around. That's not how Indiana is made. They basically go 8-9 deep, and they have to have all 8-9 players participate, play well, and certainly elite shot making is the only chance they have tonight. I'm looking at Siakam, their max level former All-Star, the only player on their roster with a ring. He won a championship in Toronto where he was the second best player on that team. Kawhi, of course, was the first, but Siakam, they don't win the championship if Siakam doesn't do what he did. And I think he's got to go for 30 or more. 28 in Game 5, 9 of 15 from the floor, 8 free throws. He also had 6 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He was the best pacer in Game 5 by far. McConnell in the third quarter was really good. But this is going to be a Siakam game. This is going to you need like 4 threes from Nesmith. Miles Turner needs to show a pulse. You're going to need Nembhard. And it's a tough ask to ask Nembhard to do much offensively because he draws the assignment of Shea. He's the primary defensive assignment on SGA. It would be Nesmith, but they have to put Nesmith on Jalen. Like, there's no other way around it because Aaron's bigger and Jalen is a beast. Siakam will draw some minutes on Jalen Williams, too. But you got to get a couple of knockdown shots from Nembhard. Obi Toppin has to wake up from the start of the game and not wait for the flow to come to him when he has an opportunity. I'm going to say that I feel like it ends tonight. I picked Oklahoma City in 5. Obviously, that's not going to happen because this is Game 6. But I feel like it ends tonight. So we'll have to see. We are about an hour and 14 minutes away from tip, Game 6 of the NBA Finals. After we say goodnight at 6 o'clock, we will throw it over to ESPN Radio's coverage of tonight's game. We are your home of the NBA Finals in this market. We'll catch a break, and we'll do some football. Coming up on the other side, do some NFL with Ben Solak. We'll say goodnight at 6 on a busy Thursday drive. It's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. probably cliche to say, but this has to be his best song. And maybe it is the almost famous scene where the guitarist, his name is escaping me, played by Billy Crudup, drops acid, jumps off a roof of a house in Topeka, Kansas at a party, lands in the swimming pool, and then is saved. And then the bus scene, of course, Penny Lane. I mean, come on. Doesn't get better than Penny Lane.
I think it's got to be the best song. I'm not necessarily like a Elton John expert, to be clear. I don't know that I could name you a whole lot of his songs, but hey, this is a classic no matter which way you stack it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Almost Famous is one of my top 5 movies. It is a phenomenal film. Yes, I called it a film because I'm pretentious.
I like that.
Shout out to Cameron Crowe. Kate Hudson is Penny Lane. Come on, man.
A film. I call them cinematic adventures.
Okay, don't be pretentious. Biggest movie crush you've ever had in your life?
Ooh.
Even when you were young or whatever.
That's a good question.
Kate Hudson as Penny Lane has to be up there.
Megan Fox was a big one.
Okay. Transformers? Yeah, you are a kid.
Jennifer Aniston always.
Are you an Aniston guy? I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
You want to hear a super scorching hot take before we say goodnight? Courtney Cox better looking than Jennifer Aniston.
Wow.
Yeah, hot. I know it's a hot take. It's a hot friends take, but that's what the people come here to listen to. Hot friends takes.
Both pretty.
Kate,
but Jennifer Aniston's always wearing the Knicks gear in the Friends episodes.
That's true. It's true.
That may have been the killer.
See, the only issue, like, obviously Kate Hudson playing Penny Lane, it's a fictional character, and it's always like Rachel McAdams, Wedding Crashers. There's no, like, that's not real. Okay, she was way too cool and way too chill. Like, that's not a real thing. So you fall in love with movie characters, but they're not real. But I'm going to die on the hill that Elton John's best song is Tiny Dancer, Almost Famous. Porter Larson, are we talking about Game 7 tomorrow, or are we talking about OKC as the NBA champs?
I think we're talking about an NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder, but I hope that's not true. I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, Game 7s are something that if you're a sports fan, especially if you're not a fan of the Pacers or the Oklahoma City Thunder, that's all I'm cheering for, is to see a Game 7. There's nothing that matches that level of urgency, that level of pressure, and there's not, an uneven level of pressure. Both teams are win or go home come a Game 7. So, I don't think so, but I think there's a chance. Here's the thing. With how this postseason has gone, and how Indiana has stayed alive through some of it, you almost expect them to win a Game 6 in which you don't expect them to win. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of the way I feel going into this one. An injured star player, you're kind of counted out. Well, that's the perfect time for the Pacers to win a Game 6 and force a Game 7. But ultimately, if not tonight, I do think we'll be talking about an OKC Thunder championship in the next few days.
I think I agree with you. I'm going to say my hot NBA Finals take tonight is that it is over after this game. So we'll see. OKC, Indiana Pacers, Game 6 of the NBA Finals comes your way coming up on the other side. All right, Porter, before we say goodnight, what comes our way on a Friday edition of this radio show?
On a Friday edition of The Drive, of course, we will recap the NBA Finals Game 6. It is OKC in Indiana. Howard Beck stops by for that one. We'll double up on the NBA Daily Assist with one Zach Harper, Paul Pugmire for the latest in the golf world, including reaction to J.J. Spahn's U.S. Open. And we'll go from there. Of course, it's myself and our friend Tony Parks in for you.
There you go. Yep, I'm out tomorrow, so give Porter and Tony your ears. I'll be back on Monday, and we will say goodnight. Special thank you to Ben Solak, Chris Camerani, Dave McMiniman. A little sports court action on a Thursday as well. For any of the sound you may miss from the show, website is ESPN700sports.com. Download our app. ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It actually helps. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. You guys have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Give Porter and Tony your attention tomorrow, and I'll talk to you on a Monday edition of The Drive. NBA Finals coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network.